nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to the August 28th Planning Commission meeting. And we will start with approval of the minutes from last month. Did anyone have notice anything?
Yeah, I've
in the
already
minutes?
submitted them to Melissa so she could put them in place. It was mainly stylistic.
Do you, before we vote on it, is there anything we need to add?
There's no substantial
Okay.
material change. It was just simply presentation.
Okay. And take those, okay,
So I'd move to accept.
okay, all right. I'll vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? No. All right, Heather, minutes are approved.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so looks like we have a pretty short agenda. Any citizen comments for items not on the agenda? No, okay. All right, and our planners, neither planner is here this evening, so we're gonna go right to the site plans. And I guess we'll start with Calvary.
Yes,
That's
we
first?
will.
Okay,
Hilton Broussard's estate.
and, okay,
That was,
is that Ron or,
No, that's
Oh.
Mr. Mike Van
that's
Zandt.
Mike?
Mike's here.
Oh.
Okay. All right, Mike Van Zant.
Haven't
You-
seen you in a while with planning.
I know. If you want, you can sit and then come up if you want to speak. You can stay seated, or if you want to start with a presentation, that would be fine.
Well, I'll probably just let Heather go
Okay.
over the staff report.
Okay.
Because
right.
hopefully it's fairly cut and dry.
Okay, all right, great.
I have some talking points, so I'm not going to read the staff report word for word, but it is here. Now, there is one correction on page 2. Lot 4, I got a little overzealous with the keys. Lot 4 will contain 11,351 square feet rather than 22,000.
Oh.
I know, I was,
So,
that
I
doesn't
was
seem
yeah.
right.
wondering about that.
Say that again,
I-
please.
It's-
11,000.
It's
Yeah.
number 2, lot 4A, it's
11,000?
11,351.
So instead of a 1-1, I hit a 2-2.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
okay.
11,351.
But it doesn't substantially
Okay.
change anything on that amended plat that you guys received. So the plat will benefit Calvary United Methodist Church. The amended plat, the purpose is to revise the existing boundary lines for Lot 2A, 4A, and 5A. And in doing so, Lot 1A will also have several parcel remainders consolidated to create additional land area. So there is a section on the amended plat that has, like the tabulations of what will be added to Lot 1A. And the purpose of the plat is to combine all the land areas dedicated to serve the church operation onto one parcel, and then to revise the boundary lines to allow each of the 3 dwelling structures to become a lot of record independent of the church property. The town code section requires that the planning commission approves an amended plat whenever the owner of a lot or parcel wishes to add land to an existing parcel, delete land, or consolidate several lots of parcels into one. And they're doing a little bit of everything with this amended plat. And so this is one of the more unique amended plats, and a little bit busier. So I've added some shading to the actual plat, and that's what's projected up on the overhead. As reflected in the staff report, 2 of the lot line revisions will require the Planning Commission's approval to vary the required lot width as prescribed by 11224 of the Town Code. Lot 2A will have a lot width of just over 52 feet, and Lot 5A will have a lot width of just under 67 feet. And of course, the required lot width for this zoning district is 100 feet in width. We have provided a favorable recommendation for the variation as requested by the applicant in this case. And the other part that's delineated in the orange coloration is that the amended plat will also convey required areas of dedication to the town and state highway. So that's a summary of the staff report, and staff does provide the following recommendations. That the planning commission find that an unusual hardship will result on lots 2A and 5A from strict compliance with regulations set forth under Town Code Section 11224, requiring a 100-foot lot width due to the following reasons. And there are 3 reasons. The first one being the existing structures will continue to be used for residential purposes. The second reason is the proposed yard areas reflect the open land area currently utilized by the existing residential structures. And lastly, additional land area is not available for conveyance to allow lots 2A and 5A to meet the minimum lot width. Of course, a condition of the approval of the amended plat is that that it be conditioned upon all final town and county, put that word together, county agency comments. So we just want to make sure that any remaining comments, which I do not believe that there are any, but that all those, any outstanding comments are addressed. And Mr. Van Sant is here.
I'm Mike Van Sant, and it just has become burdensome to the church to continue to be in the rental business. Back 25 years ago, when they bought these parcels, you know, for parking, roadways, whatever, they were a little more attuned to, you know, being rental. So I think I've talked with one neighbor, and they wouldn't mind seeing landowners rather than just renters in their neighborhood. So
sorry.
I've got a cold, so but I'll do the best I can, Leslie.
I was just curious, so at this time, the church would still own the residential properties?
Yes.
And then they would be trying to sell them?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the real reason that they want to separate them out?
Yes, yes,
They
yes.
want to transition from rental property to sold. Okay.
Right. And this is the entirety of what the church owns. Everything they own is shown on this plan.
Okay.
And at one point, they owned the lot just north, at lot 6
Here,
that Fred and Erica
And
Mason.
we did a similar
Mhm.
thing there.
And that
Yes,
was
yeah,
back
they-
in
That lot
2003,
used to go
I
all the way
believe.
back,
Yeah.
Okay,
and we took the front part of that off.
okay.
So this amended plat cleans everything up, and I don't think there's much more that needs to be done. I think that this would be the final plat amendment.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, yes, yes. So if the commission would be of a mind, we'd appreciate your approval, and I'll answer anything I can.
And I guess this doesn't really impact the renters. I mean, it really doesn't impact because they still own it. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or discussion?
Makes the most sense. It makes sense.
Well,
Okay.
we ready?
Well, then who would like to take a try at this
I'll
proposal?
do
Okay.
And I'll simply follow what is the recommendation of staff, that we find that an unusual hardship will result in lots 2A and 5A of this property from the strict compliance with the regulations set forth in Town Code Section 112-24 that requires a 100-foot lot width due to 3 reasons. The existing structures continue to be used for residential purposes. 2, the proposed yard areas reflect the open land area currently utilized by the existing residential dwelling structures. And 3, additional land area is not available for conveyance to allow both lots 2A and 5A to meet the minimum lot width. And of course, the final approval for lots 2A, 4A, and 5A of this estate would be conditioned upon all town and county agency comments having been addressed.
I will second that.
Okay, any more discussion? All right,
Piece it up.
all in favor?
Pretty easy.
Aye.
Thank you, folks.
You're welcome.
Pretty easy.
Nice to see you.
When Steph tees it up so well.
Yes, definitely.
You knew that would be confusing.
I know it seemed, at first it seemed like it'd be like, oh my God. Okay. So next we have the Goddard School, building expansion amended site plan.
Yes, ma'am. This is the amended site plan for the Goddard School located at Lot 35 of the Twin Arch Business Park. The physical street address is 2002 Backacre Circle, and the applicants for this project are Douglas and Gina Del Gandio. And some talking points to summarize the staff report. The amended site plan, the purpose is to allow the construction of a building addition for the continued operation of the Goddard School. Approval of the plan will allow a 3,331 square foot addition to the existing 8,776 building structure that is currently serving as a child care and early education facility. The addition will provide much needed classroom space and a gym and resource room. Now, the proposed addition will be situated towards the rear of the lot, and it will take place of an existing outdoor play area. But the consideration in that is that there will be like an all-weather gym play area. So they won't be losing any recreation area per se. There are 2 additional play areas located in each of the side areas that will remain. In order to move forward with the proposed addition, the applicants sought authorization to vary the required rear and side yard setbacks. And as you can tell, the lot has a very unique configuration, and they're pinched in that top rear corner. The Board of Appeals did grant the needed variances to allow a 28-foot rear yard setback and an 18-foot side yard setback. And the variance also allowed for a variance of 6 parking spaces. And for this particular project, or use, I should say, the required parking spaces are determined based on the pupil yield. So since we would be adding some additional classrooms and overall square footage, that increases the pupil yield. So an additional 6 parking spaces were required. But they provided a time use study, and it was proven that they have plenty of parking to meet their current needs.
The kids won't be driving.
Right, the kids don't drive yet, and it's really like a drop-off, scenario. So, they were successful in, that variance allowance as well. The proposed addition, overall really has a limited impact on the existing site. The project is exempt from stormwater management, landscaping, or any, public improvements. Architectural elevations are provided on the last sheet of your package, and you can see that the addition maintains the design and material integrity, along with the roofing lines. So it's going to look like it was just built with the original structure. The proposed addition will yield an increase of 306 gallons per day. But this is accounted for under the water and sewer demand for the approved pipeline development, so there's no issues there. Staff has provided an APFO analysis on pages 3 and 4 of the staff report. Nothing remarkable to report for this project. We've been dealing with the police services and adequacy and scheduled to improve scenario for several projects, and that remains for this one. And I have included verbiage in the recommendation pursuant to the Town Code Section 25-7B relating to the deferral of a final decision of the adequacy. Staff does recommend approval of this project. And staff recommends that the Planning Commission conditionally approve the site plan amendment for Lot 35, Twin Arch Business Park for the Goddard School to allow the construction of a 3,331 square foot building addition, but defer the final decision of adequacy of facilities for police services until such time as the chief of police can address the adequacy standard, provide a measurement of coverage, and demonstrate forward progress on the transition of the town's municipal police force subject to the following conditions. And as always, we require that all town and county agency comments shall be addressed prior to the submittal of the Mylar drawings for circulation and signature. And of course, we do know that our Mount Airy Police Department will be resuming full control, not resuming, but assuming full control of the town's public safety on October 1st, thereabouts. So we should soon have that deferral off of our reports. But that does include the staff report. Mr. Ron
Right.
Thompson and Ms. Delgandio is here.
Thank you. Ron Thompson, Van Mar Associates, representing the Delgandios. Gina's here tonight. We thank the staff for the report, support their recommendation of approval, and look forward to the commission's approval. We'll answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions for Ron?
This is a 38% expansion of existing square footage. My calculations are accurate.
Roughly, yeah. Yeah. They've had a wait list since the day they opened the doors.
Well, that's
So-
great.
The demand is there, and part of this, of course, is providing indoor space for activities for when it rains. They've got two side playground areas, but of course, rainy days, cold weather, they don't have a place for them to play.
How many children do you accommodate currently?
Currently, 140.
In this-
largest?
In this extra,
In
and this extra space will allow you to increase approximately how much?
Roughly
I think it's
34.
36.
About 34 is what we've put on the plan.
Yeah, there'll be 2 extra classrooms, one for the younger side, one for the older side, and then a gym to accommodate other activities and visitors as well as the girls' side.
How young do you take them?
Infants, 6 weeks. The youngest we've had is 8 weeks, but.
Wow.
What are the time periods in the morning and the afternoon when parents are dropping off and picking up children?
So we open at 6:30, but probably the busiest time is between 7 and 8:30 in the morning, and then between 4:30 and 5:45 in the evening.
Any more questions, discussion? Roxanne, did you have something?
Nope, I'm fine.
Okay.
I would be willing to make a motion
Okay, great.
that the planning commission conditionally approve the site plan. We'll start over again.
Okay.
Make a motion that the planning commission conditionally approve the site plan amendment for lot 35, Twin Arch Business Park for the Goddard School, to allow the construction of a 3,331 square foot building, a square foot building addition. Wasn't connecting the two. But defer the final decision of adequacy of facilities for police services until such a time as the chief of police can address the adequacy standard, provide a measurement of coverage, and demonstrate forward progress on the transition of the town's municipal police force to subject the following conditions: that all town and county agency comments be addressed prior to the submittal of the Mylar drawings for circulation and signature.
I second.
I was hoping, because.
All in favor? All in-
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.
thanks.
It's a very attractive design, Ron.
Yeah,
Yes,
Very
good luck.
It's a beautiful building.
it is a
Yes.
beautiful building.
So, council liaison, no new business, no unfinished business, council liaison. Bob?
Okay, let's see. We had a wonderful event downtown Saturday night, Celebrate Mount Airy. It's the third time, and it was a huge hit, all the way from Prospect to Calvary Church. The road was packed with people. And there wasn't a whole lot of, I didn't see a whole lot of drinking going on. I mean, you know, there was wine for sale and beer for sale and all that kind of stuff. And nobody was getting wild and crazy. It was just an absolutely wonderful night. The weather was fantastic. Scott, you were out there, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Butts was out there.
Yeah.
Mr. Hushhour was there. Mark was there.
I was at my son's birthday party, which I unfortunately had scheduled before I knew about
But
this.
it was huge.
Yeah, fun.
It was huge, and it was a lot of fun. People just got an opportunity to talk to people all night long. The farmers market is up in the municipal lot every Wednesday, 3 to 7. It's a fantastic place.
Through September.
Yeah, they're through. Then
Yeah, what's the
we only got a few
deadline?
weeks left. They're through the month of September, and that's
Okay.
it. And it's really done well this year.
Yeah, that's great.
Let's see, the MXD public hearing is coming to the town council on 9/11 at 7 PM. That's when the public hearing is gonna be. And then if there's any changes, it's coming back to us. EDC is working on an EDC work plan. They're trying to come up with ways to help businesses in the downtown area and all throughout Mount Airy. We're talking about working with MAMSA, which handles the downtown folks, and the Greater Mount Airy something of Commerce. Chamber, that's it, Chamber of Commerce. We'll be working with them, which is something that we hadn't done in the past a whole lot. We're also fine tuning the mom and pop grants. The town council put $15,000 in the budget, but didn't like the plan too much when we submitted it. We're gonna try one more time. We're taking all of the town council advice and rewriting the thing. So it'll come up in a couple of months. We also have a new chair, Donna Marie Needle. I don't know if you guys know Donna Marie, but she is well-versed in how to take care of a meeting. And Sean Grattan is our secretary. The next EDC meeting's Wednesday, the 27th, September the 27th, at 7 o'clock Town Hall, and that is my report.
Okay, thank you, Councilman King. Okay, so next planning commission meeting, September 25th. Zoning administrator report is at your desk. As Bob said, the mixed-use zoning public hearing, September 11th, 2017, at 7 o'clock in this town hall. And downtown master plan, RFP is due, the proposals are due August 31st. I understand there's been quite a bit of interest, Heather?
Yeah, we had, I believe it's close to 100 people actually go to our website and take the documents. Now, they were from all over the country, so
Yeah.
I'm not certain that we're gonna have 100 people
Yeah, yeah.
submit, but there was definitely some good
Yeah,
interest.
so that's really good.
Yeah.
And I guess that's it, because the signed ordinance you just gave us that for
Right.
information, so.
Right.
So I think we're good, short and sweet. So,
We're having the work session after this.
oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah, that was because our agenda was gonna be fairly
Really short.
light.
Okay, so the
for-
meeting, motion to adjourn? Okay, so the planning commission meeting is now adjourned, and we will, does anybody want a break, or you good? Before we go into the workshop?
Let's go for it.
All right, so now we are going, go ahead, yes?
Before you officially start, because the downtown zone loan program or the
Mom and
program,
pop grant.
I mean, that would be so advantageous and complimentary if we had that to go along with the rollout of the
Right,
downtown master plan.
you mean like a grant
effort.
program.
Yeah.
I know,
So-
I think that we need that.
I hope that there will be some behind-the-scene discussion, that there will be some position to say, hey, guys, how can we you at least get a
I mean, I
pilot of
understand the
this.
accountability piece, you
Yeah,
know?
and there were,
Yeah.
it was not only accountability, but they want to see a process to how this happens.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, so we probably weren't we weren't quite as prepared as we should have been. So, I mean, these are all good changes, and I think that, once we make those, town council will have no problem approving what we do.
Oh, I know, and somebody had the recommendation of a matching, like the business person.
Yeah.
I mean,
Skin in
I
the
can
game.
understand.
Well,
skin in
that's,
the game,
that's,
yeah, yeah.
that's always something
Yeah.
it's been
I mean,
effective, you know,
yeah.
if you're putting half the money up.
Yeah, then
You know,
we're
we'll-
certainly a lot more committed, so, but, yeah, with certain parameters, it seems like it'd be a really
Well, the
positive.
two town councilmen in this room voted for it.
That's a plus. Okay, are we ready to start the workshop? Okay.
Yeah.
And,
Where did we end up?
I think that with the blade signs.
That's
You
right,
did,
that's
And I
right.
think we finished up on the
Well,
blade
yeah, I
signs.
think we got to
Yeah.
we got to murals.
We actually,
Do you happen to
Pass.
do you happen to have any printouts of what you said?
They're at your desks.
All right,
At your tables.
okay, great, thanks.
in
I'll try
fact,
my best to break
yeah,
it
this is
Yep,
where we are.
thank you.
Unless we need to go back and, we,
We'll talk about that.
One thing that I do agree with is with Heather's email about addressing the advertising murals separately than the temporary signs, and I agree with that, so.
Yeah, I think that's,
Yeah, I think
I agree
that's
with
gonna
that
be
too.
a
Yeah, it's gonna be a,
deeper dive.
yeah,
Because it really gets into what's
Mm-hmm.
art, what's advertising. And then I think the content neutral clause is gonna be a little bit more murky, so.
Oh, we even got through yard signs? We were on it.
Yeah, and that referred back to the language, that when the code enforcer, Mr. Rickless was here,
Oh,
we
right,
went
right,
over
right,
that.
right, right,
Yeah,
right.
it was a productive work session for certain.
It was nice having him here
I
to,
was
you
gonna
know,
say, they were helpful.
on
Yeah,
the
have that
ground Monday
feedback.
through
Yeah.
Friday when
Yeah.
we're not here.
there's the red print on the recap. There's a couple of questions or still some
Right.
uncertainties. Do you wanna,
address those
yeah,
first.
address those or at
Sure,
least
why don't
look
we-
back at them to
yeah,
see if
why don't we
there's
start
any
with that?
additional thoughts?
All right, so Heather had the question.
Bill, I think you stole mine. Oh, no, I'm only kidding.
Banner permit application.
So.
Oh, wait, that was
That's
the
possible.
question.
Yeah,
This is-
we went through
Oh, number
the
4,
feather
there's a
banners,
question.
and we worked through that, and, great compromise, 1 per 50 feet with a maximum of 4. But as I was going to sort of implement the next step and figure out how to revise the language, I just had a question, do we feel, are the actual banner signs above the same? Like, would we allow?
But you were, yeah, I was wondering, do you mean talking about you can have up to 4 banner signs and that type of thing?
Uh-huh, yeah.
That sounds.
I think
Yeah.
that's too
Okay,
many.
that's all I just
Yeah.
needed
Yeah.
to
Because what I
clarify.
was, what I had thought is that the banner signs were before you get your permanent sign.
No, banners.
No.
Okay, no, we're talking about
They're
the other
just-
sign.
They're rectangular.
Yeah, we're not, yeah, no.
Okay.
I mean,
So.
does any, I mean, Bill and I agree, but does anybody have a
No,
different,
No, I agree.
different position on that?
Well, actually, the visualization, the actual graphics and pictures of them helped me to see that they were different. You had multiple banner signs, that's different than the blade sign.
Well,
for
because they're
example.
up and they're
Yeah,
narrow.
maybe that's
and-
part of it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so you got that, right, Heather? We
Mhm.
seem to have
Uh,
consensus on that.
Um,
And then you were talking about the size limitations for the banners. No, I'm sorry, for the
For the
for the
feather.
feather blades, yeah.
yeah, and the suggestion that our, best practices guides is, like perhaps 18 feet in height maximum with a 3.5 foot width maximum.
That's huge.
without knowing any different, I,
When we talked about this last time, we also did in relation to the size of the parcel. So would that be relevant also for how tall or how high up?
I think they come in standard sizes, so, wasn't there I don't have my book with me, wasn't
Yeah.
there one in there that had, I don't know that 18 feet is, I think that's kind of high. but-
Yeah, it seems kind
I
of.
don't think so.
You don't-
I don't think so
I'm
either.
having,
I
you don't think so?
that's the
Okay,
same. I think that's about what they are.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't measured one, but.
I mean, I know that I had asked last time whether they were all pretty much the same size, and people were saying they come in different sizes, so
They come in different sizes and
but they're
shapes,
but they're standard, the ones that they come in are standard,
Yeah.
is what you're saying,
But
okay.
I don't think they go much higher than 18 feet.
I wouldn't go any higher than 18 feet, no.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
think you could put this restriction, this limitation to say that.
What is the ceiling?
I wanna say it's no,
Where
are our
engineers left?
It's about 14.
even, is it to the tile, I was gonna say 16 to the tile,
No,
but
I haven't seen
that seems
the feather banners
rather
that
large.
tall.
I know.
Feather banner.
18.
No, they're fairly tall, because you're driving by them, they're fairly tall.
Yeah,
Stand,
but they're not
I don't
that
think it's
tall.
3 of you either.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that is 18. I bet it's 14 to 16.
That's a big sign.
But
Yeah.
this
That's
is,
big.
the perspective's different when we're
when you're
out in
standing
the,
outside.
Something can be very tall in here and it looks short
Mhm.
out
well, because we have a ceiling.
Well, I mean, if it's that, good, talk to a sign company and find out what
Okay.
they traditionally are.
their sizes are in here, there's a,
Oh, where was that? There was, they literally
there was a
had,
screenshot of the different, sizes,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
their,
stuff,
and their, and what, like, they have their shape, the different shapes of them.
It says allowing a sign up to 3.5 in width, and 18 feet in height will accommodate most medium to large size blade feather signs.
Well, isn't that how we want to word it, up to?
Yeah,
And, and then that gives the
Right, they don't
the
have
business
to.
the latitude to decide what size they
Right.
want.
that's the maximum.
This is
Right
what we
there.
were looking for.
Right.
That's what I was looking for.
This guy.
there. Hey, Mark, would you do me a favor?
Big good stuff.
Would you grab one of the, off the table back there, it says memorandum, August 22, 2007.
I don't hear.
Doesn't really say.
There's mine back there.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, Mark.
I gave him one at the rec.
Who invited
You guys
that?
want these? It's just a recap of what we did last
Yes.
month, but
It gives us, like, extra
Want a
large
recap?
is 17.
like Century
Large
Ford
is
with your
large.
signage
It's 13.
material.
Yeah.
Your other
All
5,000.
right.
Probably get those.
Then she's got her-
Well, and the
Alright.
further away you are from the property, are the
Yeah, the,
wider the
yeah,
thoroughfare.
right,
and
exactly.
Same.
That all
Yeah.
helps with that section as well.
Okay. So are we clear on that
Yeah,
then?
so maximum 18.
Yeah, maximum 18 and
Okay, I
3.5 width.
Okay.
Those are just some things that I wanted to, now, wait a minute, I gave away my recap. Bob, you're causing trouble. Okay.
All right, so the next thing for consideration is whether the allowance of the feather banners would be in addition to or instead of ground-mounted banners.
Like, can they have both, or?
I would think not, but that would
Yeah.
just be me.
I would think not as well.
And
Anybody?
That was my thought as I
Okay.
was thinking about it.
Because I mean, when we came up and we decided to allow feather banners, it was sort of like we don't allow them now, but we'll allow them and we'll sort of model them after what we
After
already
them.
allow for the
Sure.
banners. So it
Okay.
seems to me that the idea was that they would be a separate choice.
Or
So
maybe,
you would not, so the Medi Spa that puts the banner out on the porch, if they wanted to put feather banners at the end of their drive, saying big sale, whatever, something, you would say only that or on the porch, you couldn't do both?
What would we do without them? They're like.
I know, they're the perfect model of everything we want to display in a sign, but, because I was picturing your hill, with the house at the top, to a development, and I could see feather banners going up the
Yeah.
hill, and then
At the
on the
very top.
porch of
Yeah.
the model home,
Yeah.
saying model home, something like that, and so.
So again, it's,
Just to be, I
And
think
that's
it's
what they
very
do.
individualized, I mean.
so I think a lot of it, as usual, partly goes back to what is the size of the parcel, and, you know, is it a bunch of stuff like we have at the store over there that shall not be named, or is it?
Well, even that would be limited to one
Yeah,
and
yeah.
one.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
and does it make a difference if it's ground mounted? So if they have a banner, like a building mounted banner, so maybe it's like just one building mounted.
Yeah, I would think if
and-
it's ground, because then you have a banner on the ground and the feather
Perhaps,
banners in the
perhaps,
ground.
you know, ground mounted banners may not be placed in conjunction with feather banners.
Yeah.
Something like that, and then that would
Well, then,
still
like, we have
allow
a sheet
building
of peppers
mounted.
on the railing
That would
of the
work.
porch, since you have that.
No, I'm just trying to think of
Yeah,
different
yeah.
examples, and
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
good.
want it to be, I mean,
Yeah, me too.
I know.
Thing is
So-
sitting in the Bank of America and the view that you get, and I thought I'd throw some couple feather banners in there, we could really liven this place.
Well, what you're suggesting is maybe there's a distinction based on genre. If it's entirely different types of signage, complementary, maybe that's less intrusive, or that's less of an issue.
I
And if
mean, I
they're
think you can
somewhat
get
the type
carried away
ground-
with
ground
signs
mounted.
too, and
Oh,
I think,
yeah,
I don't
easily.
want anything to look junky, I just think that, so hard, because as soon as you say this, there's gonna be somebody that comes, and it's gonna make
Yeah.
perfect sense for them to have a banner sign.
The exception to the rule is always the first thing you have to deal with when you make a rule.
That's why we want to empower town staff.
Yeah,
Well, when we were-
We wanna make sure that we have a code that's
support you.
leaves little to interpretation
yes.
for a zoning
Right.
Right.
administrator.
Well, you know, the other thing that we were talking about last time is the one particular business who needs a feather banner all of the time, and which we did not resolve, but weren't we discussing a possible exception, you know, special exception? I mean, we didn't discuss into that special
Yeah.
term, but is there any way? It's almost like the hardship thing that we just discussed for the plat. If there's no other way for, you know, someone
But this
to.
is only 3 times a year. This
Well, that's
isn't like
true, too.
permanent.
Yeah, we're
This
still-
is,
trying to get
yeah,
at.
this is,
3
yeah,
times,
so this
30-day
isn't
max.
really,
So, I mean, let's go with one banner and one and the feather, but nothing else or something.
I mean, if they
On
were
the
smart,
building or on the ground? Can it be ground and feather, or building mounted banner? Only because
I hear ya.
the banner can be ground mounted as well.
well, if there's,
And I wanna make sure that the language that we,
I don't have an opinion one way or the other.
okay.
but why can't we do something with square footage? So that if you have a really large parcel, then maybe you have your feather banners closer to the road, and then you can have a banner sign further back. But if it's a small parcel,
Right.
then you don't
right,
need
but
all
if they
that.
were smart, the way that we have it written for the use, like, 30 days, and you could use the feather, the ground, and the banner, and have the whole year, you could have something up the whole year,
That's true.
by doing all three at different times.
Yes, Pat.
Perhaps you wanted to add something about giving the town administrator discretion if the parcel's large, because you were trying to find the exception for all these. You really, it's gonna be too hard for you to try to design something like that. Do the
Yeah.
best you can, and then know that the town administrator, even on the enforcement arm, we don't have to enforce. If we have a huge property and they ask for 2, we just simply don't have to enforce it.
Right,
So
right,
it
right.
makes sense not to enforce that.
Well, that's a way of dealing with it, the town administrator,
Yeah,
yeah.
Mike
Yeah.
just snuck up there.
Dr. O'Brien?
Michael O'Brien, 806 Park Avenue. Shouldn't you have some sort of structure for exceptions, hardships, because there's always gonna be something with signs that's gonna be objectionable to one or more. And I think you have to have something in, otherwise it's gonna be a constant argument back, and it has been, all the
And-
time.
and I think
Under
that's what
all
we just-
under
yeah.
just like a special exception for signs, just for signs,
I-
not.
I like what the mayor said about leaving it up to the discretion of the town administrator.
I
Yeah,
think
but
that-
then that puts all the pressure then on there rather than a whole
Well,
body voting.
They get
on
paid
it.
the big bucks for.
Well, yeah, they get paid the big bucks, but it's rather than having a
Well, but they also have,
confluence of opinion.
Mike, they have the most experience. I mean, it's day to day. They have the most relevant context for, I think, for evaluating those situations and deciding, you know, might it be appropriate to give, you know, greater latitude in
And
some
if
cases.
they feel like they're not certain,
Then
then
they
they
could-
can bring
Then
it
they bring
Yeah.
they bring it back
to
here.
us.
Yeah.
And
But
if,
yeah,
uh,
I do think that would be.
You have
good.
to have an out, is what
Yeah.
I'm
Mr.
suggesting.
Mayor,
Right.
Monica is
I
the
agree.
zoning administrator also, is she
That's
not?
correct.
Mhm.
And so, you know, she is the perfect one. I'm not saying that the next person that's in there, you know, would have those qualifications. And it's probably something you'd have to decide every couple of years on who's gonna administer it. But I would think your town administrator would be the person.
And they do, I think by code,
Mhm.
they're, as far as variances, they're allowed to grant up to 10% outside of what you approve.
Right.
So they are allowed flexibility. And then when it gets down to the enforcement arm, sometimes you just have to have common sense.
Right.
And usually the enforcement arm falls to the mayor's desk, and there's times there where some things make sense to enforce and some things don't.
Yep,
Right.
I think that's a good suggestion, Mayor. I think that's what that it should be done. Because it was Monica that kind of cleared my mind with the.
Yeah, last time we were-
Yeah,
yeah,
it,
she was
I mean,
there.
her description was, was right on. So I,
So we good with that, Heather?
I'll put some wording in.
Thanks. Okay.
So is it freestanding yard signs that?
Yeah, and I just, was it 40, we talked about 60 days and then we went to 45.
I think it was 45.
Was it
And we
40?
ended
Okay.
with 45, yeah.
I needed to, okay, so that resolves any, like, little lingering questions that I had. So then that puts us to light pole or support pole banners. And these, there are two functions to these, so oh, go ahead.
Before we get too far, we had discussed banners on railings and banners
No.
on fencing.
Oh,
we're not gonna
Yeah,
go
we
there.
did.
yeah, we did, but I thought we put that.
We resolved
it.
We resolved
We
that.
were allowing them, and then we're gonna discuss their restriction in the downtown zone.
Okay.
Wait, the banners on rails?
Yeah,
No,
Yes.
they're restricted in the downtown zone, and we're allowing them in the non-downtown zone.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
We
yeah, okay,
were, yeah.
okay, good,
Just, I wanted it clear in my mind.
yeah.
I wasn't clear what we were doing after we left here.
Yeah, and the
Oh, okay.
downtown zone has its own set
Set
of,
of
Yeah.
signage rules and
Right.
regulations.
right. So they're not being restricted in other areas
Okay.
for the purposes of this exercise. Yes, ma'am.
Nope, I was
Okay.
jumping ahead.
So light pole or support pole banners, these have two functions. Like Mount Airy Shopping Center, they always put their seasonal, like
Yep.
happy
yeah,
holidays or, you know, welcome fall, whatever. So it's not, they don't have commercial advertising. And it's a temporary sign with a temporary message. But then
Permanent
some,
structure.
and this is, and staff has run into this, so we really don't regulate the seasonal type of signage, like on the pole banners. Western Union always wants to put their signs up, and we haven't allowed that, because that's a continual form of advertising.
What would you do with, because I know like driving through Columbia, they have these kind of signs up all the time saying Healthy Howard, or, you know, how, or something. But they're up for a period of time, it's not 30 days.
Right.
They're up for 6 months to a year, depending on what they're,
Right.
but it's, that, they do last, they're real, but so is that something totally, I mean, that's not even advertising business.
No, it's a
Public-
non-commercial
Right.
message. They're not advertising.
I think we put the flags up on the poles here, isn't that the same thing?
Well, and if we were allowed to put banners on our telephone poles, we would have
We used to.
that type of, we would have, Winter Wonderland, or, we wish we could do that. But it's not advertising anything.
So we can't put things up on the telephone poles?
No, Potomac Edison
No.
does
Won't
not
let
allow
us.
us to.
Well, we
Not
used to
allowed.
though, didn't we, Mike? It seems to me the first couple of years that I lived here, and that was early nineties, there was actually banners that went across the
Across the,
street,
Yes.
across Main Street.
yes.
So my wife would ask if quilted flags are okay in the,
That's what I was just saying, that we put the flags on the light poles.
because she puts a quilt out every season in front of her house.
Well, that's fine, because that's your house.
Well,
That's
It's not an
residential.
advertisement.
oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't even regulate, like open flags, or remember Vintage Coffee House?
Yeah.
They had that flag, it was
Oh,
a
yeah.
seasonal, always hit me in the head when I was, but it was great, it was just like a touch of whimsy, and it was a great, it had that like artistic flair to it. So this one's a little difficult, because you don't want to take away or regulate, sort of that placemaking type signage. But if we can't differentiate between like Western Union, they want to put up their
yellow, icky yellow
I don't think it should be for that, I think it should be temporary, I think you can come up with some really great marketing things with that. I wouldn't wanna see these kind of signs being used for businesses.
Yeah. See, and that's what I need to work with the town attorney on, because there's so much as far as the content neutral, and you can regulate
Yes.
the time, place, and manner,
Manner.
but not the actual message.
Yep.
So that's what gets really difficult about it.
Yeah, for you let some,
But
Some, but
how
not.
does like Howard County get away with it then? Cause you don't see those kind of signs up through Howard County about any business on any of those kind of poles. It's, those street lights and everything are really about
Well,
the
if the
county.
streetlights may be owned by the county, and therefore they control it.
So they can determine what goes on there,
Right,
what doesn't.
right.
See, they don't have any municipalities, everything stops at the county.
County
Right.
level.
They're,
They have municipalities,
So this is more like
but
the interior of the shopping centers. So, going to the Walmart, their light poles.
Could put anything they want on it.
Right.
Yeah. And we would have no control over that, cause they own that.
Right, the extent of the control that we would have, right, is if they're allowed to do it or not.
is that no one, you can either do it or not do it.
Right.
Right.
But if we say you can do it, they can put
Whatever
whatever
they
they want.
want.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there could be, a partnership with the shopping center owners saying, well, this is really what we prefer. Cause some shopping centers, I know, the property management of Mount Airy Shopping Center, they're really geared towards, making things look uniform and tasteful. So.
Okay.
I'm thinking of maybe signage going across support columns in gas stations. Some of the gas stations have some pretty high columns. I think I've seen banners being strung between them. Seems that would fall into this case. If you string between two support columns, which isn't, there's actually a picture on the 37 here, on page 37.
That's not,
But but in the background, there is what I'm talking about. So not the focus of the picture, but on that gas station structure in the back.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen things strung across them like that.
Hmm.
It would seem that that would fit this bill, and I don't know.
So are they banners?
Well, depends on, I mean, they're on support columns, I mean, or those have lights on them too, or, I don't know where it falls in. It's kind of like, it can be a banner because it's strung between two
Yeah,
support
yeah.
columns, but I don't know if it falls under here, it's a support pole banner.
Well, that particular example would be under a roof. It would almost be considered part of the structure that's already there.
Yeah.
It
most
wouldn't be
cases.
an additional
Right.
distraction. And from that, just in terms of the way you see it and you just told it, that would be different than it was in a totally separate location.
Yeah, sure.
And that's
Right.
part of the concern that we grapple with, is the amount of distraction
I can
and
try to
and
get
so
it,
forth,
my,
as opposed to limiting, how much a business can,
sure,
you know,
sure, let me
promote
see if I can.
what it is they uniquely offer.
It's just
I mean,
such a huge
that's a
document,
fine line.
Tony, and
But
I mean,
they're all
it's an
long,
aesthetic
the
perception.
last one.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you with, if you came down the street here and you had snowflakes on the poles and signs, I think it would enhance the winter feeling. But if you
That's
had
great.
advertisements, it would not. I
Yeah.
don't think I don't like those.
Oh,
I don't think that they
no.
look good.
I mean, even to have 150-year Mount Airy,
Right.
150 years, something like that even would be,
I actually
but
like
something
those.
about the town
Right.
Yeah.
that speaks to
Right.
us.
Yeah.
I like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I wouldn't wanna see a business up there.
No.
Yep.
Tony, this is
And I think the
all
reason why it
about
doesn't
what I
happen a
hate
lot is
with
because I
this.
think a lot of the light poles are owned by,
By Potomac Gas.
Yeah.
by
But we have to
Potomac Gas.
get-
Well, we're being
We're gonna have
taped.
to
There it
start-
is.
Oh, no, we're not, are we being
Mike, we're
taped?
gonna.
Heather,
we're gonna
are we
start.
being taped? Oh, then you don't have to.
So, the only thing I would be concerned of
It is,
with
but it's not.
non-advertising is, you'd mentioned, 150-year Mount Airy or whatever.
Right.
Isn't that advertising? I mean, would people
But it's
argue that?
town.
No, I understand, but is it a form of advertising?
According to
Well, it's
Monica.
not commercial.
According to
It's not
Monica, the
commercial.
town must comply with the sign ordinance just like everybody else.
Right, so
I mean, I've been
would someone,
banners on the,
would someone dispute that is what I'm looking for holes where people
He's,
could
he's looking,
dispute.
he's playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So we'd have to make sure our language.
But I think we're specifically saying we don't want a company's name on a banner,
Mount Airy,
where,
incorporated.
LLC.
I'm just trying to
I don't think
Give
it's the
people-
same
yeah,
thing.
but
don't give
Mount
someone a
Airy,
chance to-
Mount Airy, the town, but the people that would profit from it would be all the businesses, as opposed to one specific business.
As long as it passes, I'm just trying to avoid cracks in the arm.
yeah. I mean, allowing something as simple as Happy Holidays up on there. Now, does that mean that Wells Fargo can come in and do whatever they want to do?
Well, we really, we,
Or is that a religious statement?
Huh?
Or a non-religious statement?
Right? Yeah, you could end up, and that's, we actually took a sign ordinance class down at MML, and they're just catching up with all this stuff now, and just about every time you write something, you come up with something, right.
Changes again.
That's
they're
why
really
it's
going
a
towards
l-
the content
an
neutral.
old-fashioned lamp and nothing written on it anymore. Well, you don't see any messages.
Well, snowflakes, pumpkins, scarecrows. Without a message.
Yeah, I think,
Right.
so I think we kind of have, I mean, yeah, because if we say
I
yes.
don't know that you're gonna
then-
have the proliferation, one of the things that, and it wasn't too long ago, well, maybe like 3 years, but Western Union wanted to, Tony, what are you doing? Don't you, that's Ann's computers, don't be getting
Whose
me in
is it?
trouble. All right, you just, whatever, if, Tony did it.
I'll walk out with it.
So Western Union, they wanted to install, and the answer was no. And we, in our minds back then, it was okay because it was a form of advertising. Well, with this case, you know, like the Reed case, I don't know that we can do that. So,
Well, going back to the whole thing, well, you can say no if it's no to every light pole in the parking lot.
right.
Because really, you don't want a different,
Yeah, no is better than yes
Advertising
here.
yeah, yeah.
So in
Yeah,
the
because
case,
you could end up having to have something up there that really doesn't describe Mount Airy, but because you allowed something with words on it over the holidays, now you might have something that you really don't want.
Well, I was thinking more we were talking about the no business advertising on the poles in the parking lots and
I just
various
don't think
places.
that Mount Airy. I do see your point about, you know, is Mount Airy gonna be able to comply if it were to put up snowflakes? But a good point, but I feel it's not the same. I think the town, it's an enhancement to the town, or at least I feel it's an enhancement to what the town has if you were to see them downtown. And I don't think it's the same as if it was, you know, nationwide or something.
The one thing is you make the rule, if they don't like it, they sue.
Right. I mean, and that's why we have to be careful with this, I mean, I wasn't aware until I started reading about this new Reed thing and looking at some of the real estate sign regulations, that they're really pushing the envelope with the right with everybody to have the right to say what they want to say as far as a sign is concerned. So I see your point. Exactly. As long as we're complying with the law, I don't want to see the business signs.
So you make that, and if someone wants to challenge it, it's up to them.
Right.
I don't have a problem.
And it's probably prudent that we proceed cautiously, because this is new ground, so if there's no way we're going to be so cognizant that we can, you know, anticipate all of it.
I think once again, you leave it up to the town administrator. Once again, that's.
Right.
We gotta give them some support,
But-
though.
but
Yeah.
no, now, this is where we get into trouble.
Yeah, but this one
And
we
this
have
is
to
what
be
we
more
need
clear.
to
Yeah, this one we have to be
clarify,
clear.
because wherever there's gray,
Yes,
people
Yeah.
see red.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So one of the things, I guess, Mayor Pat was alluding to there was that instead of building in exceptions to rules, it was to enforce the rules and to allow the town to choose not to enforce in certain situations, which is a big difference. Because when you build in exceptions, you're building in allowances to the rules that have to be defended as exceptions. Whereas if you put the rules in and you say, no, you know, support pole signs, instead of building in exceptions to that, if it's no support pole signs, then the town can choose not to enforce snowflake signs.
No. No.
I don't,
No.
that becomes inconsistent.
No.
Well,
that-
I mean, but that's what
that-
he was saying in
no.
that instance.
I
That's
mean,
what he was referring
in
to.
that instance, you're basically trying to make a rule out of the exception. what you
Well,
just said.
That's gonna
Well,
be
no,
grounds
it
for
allows.
No,
it-
no.
Yeah, you can't
well,
do that.
What Pat, what
Can't
we
do
were
that.
talking about when Mayor Pat was bringing that up is on some very, very highly unusual situation, then maybe the you know, if we have a really huge parcel that maybe Monica could decide to get an extra sign. To decide to actually have a rule that is really we're not going to enforce, you could be sued for that too. That's not going to
Well, doesn't the town always reserve the discretion to impose something?
No.
But no. I mean, there's rules, and if they miss an enforcement because they're busy or they don't, you know, or
That's
if it's
one
some
thing.
really minor thing, like he was talking about last time with the Boy Scout signs or the Little League signs or whatever. You know, so he doesn't pick them up until 60 days, even though they're too long. I mean, that's not something.
That's his discretion of doing that.
That's, or you know, he's got to
Mhm.
prioritize what he has time
It
for.
sounds
but-
like
Right.
a choice to not enforce.
Yeah, Larry.
Congress, I'm having trouble following where we're trying to go. The banner that is depicted on that light pole right
Yep.
there, are we talking about the eliminating the possibility of doing that anywhere in this town.
I think we're the same. I thought we had left it with, we would not allow for any kind of business advertising.
Okay, the
But I-
reason I'm asking that is because 7-Eleven and all the way through Century Ford, I mean,
They have them on
these
there.
exist.
And
And,
I-
asking, are we discussing at this table tonight that we would end up, if passed, we would go to Century Ford and say, you gotta take all those down?
I would think you would have different rules in the different zones in the town. A different rule for downtown and the pole signs downtown and that kind of stuff.
Because I don't have a problem with that at
No.
7-Eleven. I don't have a problem with that at Century Ford. I really don't have a problem with our Christmas displays going down Main Street.
Neither do I.
or anything.
But if you, but just, my fear is that, yes, Century Ford, you don't really see it, it's not on the beaten path or whatever. You go down and all of a sudden 7-Eleven puts it out, Rita's puts it out, all the businesses, Highs, McDonald's, everybody starts putting it out. It becomes overkill, if you ask me. I think it's too much, and, because there are more permanent signs, they're, well, it says temporary, but, and they're actually using it as a permanent sign.
Yeah.
They don't
Um,
have, do they have street lights on
Right,
Ridgeside
so I just-
Avenue where
Under the
McDonald's
current
is?
code,
Where
as
McDonald's
written,
is? I don't think so.
are these allowed or are they not allowed?
I don't know what the current code says.
Or is it not addressed?
It's probably not
It's not
addressed.
addressed.
I
It's
don't-
not
I don't
addressed
remember seeing
because-
anything about pole signs in the current code.
Well, one of the problems that we're having is we simply have about banners. It's banners, pennants, and other devices are prohibited except for the following, which is the limited event, and so in the event that it does not address it, it addresses it that it's not permitted, but, and you
This
think
is
of
that Air
things,
Force
it- that-
Navy.
this is the Air Force Navy thing,
Yes.
but we're
You're exactly right.
we're trying to rectify
The
that.
Air Force, if it's not in
So-
the book, you don't do it. In the Navy, if it's not in the book.
Right.
Yeah.
Larry and I have really great conversations about that. So,
There you go.
so this isn't currently an issue that we're dealing with. So it's not something, that there was just that one instance with the Western Union and we said no because of commercial advertising. I personally, and this isn't about my personal opinion, but I do think that in the Mount Airy Shopping Center, there's just something that's added when you go in there and they have their seasonal banners, that it just creates like a sense of place, if you will. So I hate to lose that opportunity.
But they don't
But-
they don't advertise their businesses on that.
No.
Right.
So
No.
how do you get
So,
that?
so
So-
what we're being told with the Supreme Court case that came down 2 years ago, I think, was that there are ways to control those signs. You control their size, you control the frequency that they're up there and the time that they're allowed up there, but you cannot control the message. You cannot control what appears on the sign. So, somebody could convince 7-Eleven to put something up there that's just really not very nice, and it's not something we'd like to have everybody who pulls up Main Street see in the 7-Eleven parking lot.
What if Walmart and Safeway decided to put something on every sign?
See, that's what
On
I
ev- on every pole.
because there's
On
so
every
many
pole.
poles.
This is,
It's kind of like the billboard thing that we don't have in Maryland because people fought
Right.
against it. And then you start driving south and
You see the
billboards on the
billboards
highway
everywhere.
everywhere. And it's just,
There's a lot of
oh
poles in
yeah.
these parking
Yeah,
lots.
and there's a lot of poles in these
I-
Every
parking
one of
lots.
them could have something hanging off of it.
Yeah.
south of the border.
I think
They
too,
own 95.
yeah, I think too, if you would investigate the covenants that are in the shopping centers, there are specific rules and regulations about advertising and the banners and stuff within their covenants that they give to their tenants. And I think that they only put the banners up for everybody for the seasons.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what you'll find in the main shopping centers.
I wonder if we can
And in
get-
the Century Ford,
Trying to get
it's kind of the way that all car dealerships advertise is by hanging on those poles. So do we prohibit them from doing something that's generally a use in their industry?
But in reality, we're not talking about permanent signs right now. We're only talking about temporary signs. So that would be a permanent sign because they're not taking those down every 30 days. So that we might be able to skirt that one to a different time, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's a permanent sign.
It's a permanent temporary sign.
It's a temporary message on a permanent structure.
Right.
But
Say
do
that
we
again, I'm
allow?
sorry.
It's a temporary message on a permanent structure.
Right.
Because
one of the
your
things that
framework for the pole signage is going to remain, but that message is going to, and it's not going to be every 30 days. So we could parking lot this, no pun intended.
Right.
And,
Get stuck.
and see, I can have a conversation with Tom to see if there's anything that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is one of those, you don't want an unintended consequence, but there are benefits. I can see like when Prospect Mill, develops, and Leslie's like, when is it going to develop? When Prospect Mill develops, that's a really great opportunity within our downtown, with the light poles, of having some of those, temporary, type signs, just to, just to kind of bring it in. And I do see opportunity for it, but I also, there's a concern that you don't want it to be, parking lot clutter too. So how do you, how do you feel?
I think we should allow, certainly on a temporary basis, and there ought to be verbiage that allows Century Ford, maybe it's a commercial district, but, to hang their banners as a car dealership, you expect to see that. I expect to see a banner like that at 7-Eleven. You're right.
But would you,
But not for
don't you
concertos.
don't you get
Not
fearful of too many going up at one time? So like 7-Eleven does it, Subway does it, Green Turtle does it, all of a sudden you've got signs
Yeah.
all over that entire area, which is kind of congested anyway. I get a little overwhelmed with all the signage right in that little area, McDonald's and everything else, and you start having those on every single sign. I agree, the one sign for 7-Eleven doesn't do one, the car dealership, absolutely, it's not a big deal. But you start seeing it on every single thing in a congested area, and it just concerns me that it becomes too much.
I'm gonna have to drive down there again tomorrow.
How many light
I
poles?
use 7-Eleven as an example, but I'm pretty sure that there's more than 7-Eleven.
Well, I feel like it's very overdone down there.
On top of these banners, you got the big Arby's.
Right, that's what,
You got the
right,
big McDonald's.
Right.
You got the big
But
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
since
That's
it's
your
not-
commercial district.
But since it's not
Yeah.
addressed, isn't
Right.
it being allowed now? I mean, so it's not being addressed, so it's at,
Depends upon.
any restriction would reduce what's currently happening. So it hasn't gotten out of hand, which is good,
Right.
but addressing it, with the idea that it could get out of hand is probably a good idea, but it probably isn't gonna increase beyond what it is currently.
Right there, but
I understand what Judy's saying.
because I'm thinking the mixed use, so Cass Brothers coming in, all of a sudden we've got an incredible amount of commercial and residential going in a small, they're gonna be it's a much smaller condensed area. And so I just get fearful of too many signs.
Well, I don't like.
I think that I understand,
I-
I mean,
Judy, I understand what you're saying, but knowing businesses and knowing covenants with shopping centers and mixed use, they're going to have in their covenants something that restricts the use with the signage. And they're not, because it's mixed use, they're not going to plaster the area with signage. If you look at the mixed use developments that are around, they hardly have any signage at all.
Well, and also they have to do pattern books, so we have more control
Right,
over some of that stuff.
Right, so
But
I
I'd be
don't,
interested
I
in
don't
getting some of
perceive,
the
I don't perceive
covenants
that as a
for
problem.
some of the shopping.
And
like-
for, how many lamp
You know,
posts
there-
are on Ridge where McDonald's are? I don't
I
know.
know, I have to take a look at it, but you know, if I had my choice, I would much rather have banners than feather banners. I mean,
Right.
banners are they're much cleaner looking, they're
sure,
not
like, yeah,
flying,
okay.
they're,
I'm with you.
you know,
property
they're,
manager.
yeah,
agree.
they're stationary, they're pretty well done, actually.
But these are not,
so.
usually you don't see these being too, when you're talking about like 7-Eleven and stuff, those aren't temporary typically. They're
Well, they
usually-
take them down. There's different advertising every week.
I have to drive by, because
Yeah.
I normally don't go.
They
So-
do,
I have to go.
because I've seen,
They've
I have
got
to
their
go
big
look.
sign with the gas station
Not
prices,
currently
and
as
that's where they put
intimately
them.
familiar with the temporary hot dogs for sale at 7-Eleven.
okay.
Or for $0.99.
Is that what it is
I'm
now?
obviously not getting hot dogs at 7-Eleven, because I
Turns out
haven't
they're-
seen.
yeah.
the
Is that
sign.
what you and Nancy are having for dinner tonight?
That's an exception.
Fixture,
Without chili.
I've been
what
missing
about
that
cheese?
deal.
Chili
Coffee and hot
cheese?
dogs are an exception.
Maybe we can look at some of the covenants, if we could get some of those, just to kind of see what kind of
Yeah.
things are included, and that might help us.
Or just ask, like, you know,
Well, and
what do you
also
have in there?
I mean, don't.
Right,
that
exactly, we can
Right.
do that, you're right,
The highest intent, you
Yeah.
got so many districts
Right.
to play with.
What if it's, when we review a site plan, we ask for signage? What if it was tied in to site plan approval, that like is the overall signage plan, so that the fixtures, you know, like on the poles? So
But
it
this
would.
is temporary, so someone could come back after a site plan.
But no, the fixtures are permanent. So these are temporary messages on permanent,
So they would just say that there would be, on these signs, there would be
right,
temporary
Right.
messages.
As long as we don't try to control the content, I think you're okay there.
right.
But when you, this is where you get into trouble. And the Supreme Court said you have thousands of ways that you can regulate these signs. When they can go up, when they can come down.
Time, place, and manner.
Yeah, it just, you just
I think
cannot
that's a way
control
to-
the content.
I think that's one way to try to stop some of it, but it might be might go in and say, I'm not gonna put up any temporary signs, and then come in and ask for a permit later and put the stuff on the pole to put the sign. But it's a start.
But then if that's something where it would be considered like an overall site
Yeah.
Part of the site
consideration.
thing, yeah.
Like a site consideration, because signage
So
is
they have to
part.
come back in and ask for it.
Right, right,
I
and
like
then,
that.
and then given the, you know, the particular site, you know, maybe there's, you know, two signs per every 2 poles, or 1 sign per every pole, and then it
Sure,
could sort of, you know, they come in with their signage plan for their parking lot. And again, I think the way that Mount Airy Shopping Center does it, it is really
It's very
tasteful.
tasteful.
There's an elegance to it, it's very tasteful.
So maybe it should be written around what we know currently exists.
Right.
If we're okay with, you know, Larry says he's okay with what exists, and we like what currently happens, then maybe the wording should be based on what exists.
I didn't read this before, but it does say under the banners, the pole banners, that it's considered a temporary sign, even though that you're going to have a sign out there all year long. It's just the message changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow.
Yep.
You don't have-
Temporary
so it's-
message.
So it's
Permanent
not every
sign.
30 days, it's.
No, they're not gonna
it's-
take it down, they're gonna,
Well, if
Doc's already
something's,
switched arms
if
twice.
something's not really temporary, or if they're going to have consistent, then it should be part of their overall
Site plan.
signage.
yes,
So
And
I agree with
and
that.
percentage
that's
of
what we
sign that
can-
they have.
yeah,
Yes.
I agree with,
Right.
I agree with that.
That's how we oversee.
Because it's a permanent
Mhm.
signage program, but
Yeah.
the message is
Yeah.
just temporary. So the message is always gonna be evolving.
But it's always going to be related to their business, so it should be calculated
Right.
as part of their permanent signage. Yes, Mike?
So, has anyone done anything with, and I know this only because state highway won't allow signs in certain areas because of the distractions and considered a safety
Right.
issue. When you talk about the confines of a large parking lot in any of these commercial districts, you know, people are walking between cars and stuff like that. I don't know if that integrates into
Like the placement,
restrictability because of safety.
as far as like,
Whatever you wanna do
Visual
inside the
obstruction.
parking lot, I mean, those are closed quarters, there's people walking, there's cars.
right,
coming
like
in
there
and
should be a
out.
minimum height, like it
There
shouldn't
should
be any
minimum
lower
heights
than.
Or quantities, I don't know if you can
What's
squeeze
it-
that
yeah.
in there or
I-
not.
No,
It
I
says
think
actually
that's a-
here that you could, I'm sorry, that you could actually limit the number of poles, like only every third pole gets a sign,
And
so
you
that
can
you,
call it for a safety,
Mhm.
so that might
Yeah.
mitigate
Right.
some of your problems
so
with
that might,
quantities.
right.
And that's a good case-by-case type of
Right.
basis. So maybe site plan.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
And maybe geared
it's a
to
good idea, Heather.
parking spaces.
Mm-hmm. And proximity to road frontage.
Yep.
So I think all of those things, yes.
I have a question. If someone, say the car dealer, who has apparently been utilizing banners on some of the poles,
Mhm.
does he have to get approval on the content
Mm-mm.
of
No,
that temporary message?
absolutely not, no.
So if he puts up an objectionable, in the minds of this commission, an objectionable phrase or word or image, and I don't know what that would be, but
Yeah, that,
how do you?
it wouldn't be this body, it would be, the zoning administrator.
Zoning administrator.
the zoning-
Monica.
Monica.
Give that one, that one goes to zoning administrator.
And objectionable is subjective, so
Yeah, I don't know what that would be, but
I
it'd
don't
be different
either.
for you and.
what's
somebody else.
objectionable to me is an objectionable to you.
I would
so.
tell you, if it was truly objectionable, then he would probably.
We would hear about it.
And people would say, well, I'm not
Mhm.
buying a car from him.
Well, but some people try to get cute in their advertising, as we all know.
Mm.
And he may be playing off a word or two, and to him it's
Yeah.
fairly innocuous, but to others it may not be as such.
It'll blow up on social
That's a
media.
risk that business takes.
That's a risk he takes, absolutely, yeah.
You know, I mean, you wanna.
We're gonna send
But
Larry
my
to
question
talk
is,
to
what, how
him.
does the town look at it?
Few years ago, somebody went after Chick-fil-A because they were closed on Sundays, okay, and they had a real good couple of years after that. Because people said, closed on Sunday, letting the people stay home, family day, not a problem with that.
Is everything that is on this that we're discussing today, is it, does all that require a permit?
Yes, the banner permit,
Okay.
which I have in there that we have to update our banner permit. Yeah. But except for the light pole support banners, I think we're gonna take that out of the temporary, the banner.
Yeah.
We're,
There you
just
go.
because it has banners on it, we're gonna say signage.
Good
I
idea.
I don't think we're gonna include that as a banner.
Okay.
I think our discussion here has
It's
made
good.
that make sense.
So,
That
and
makes sense.
then, so we're talking about, we've been talking about banners, all this is temporary signage, and we've been talking about banners, so, but, yes, sir.
Me?
Yes, I am,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
You had your
Is
elbow
this,
up.
is this locked in stone after we discuss this? Are we gonna,
I
because
don't-
there's an item I would like to go back and discuss.
Okay, well, can we get through all this?
Let's get through it and go
Okay.
back.
And then-
Just pull me up at the end.
I'm gonna pull you up, all right.
You going
So
somewhere, you
people
going down?
signs.
Everybody be right there.
People signs.
People
Just
sign.
hit, okay, so people signs.
I think they're a safety hazard and a distraction.
But
Yeah.
if you read.
I know, I know.
Feel my pain.
all this stuff
Right?
between
You see
speaking
the
and
technology
artificial
they have me
signs,
working
permanent
with up
signs,
here?
or are-
All right, so people signs.
Yep.
Now, I will say, and it's not really a sign, so if you have somebody dressed up, Crying
We had the turtle
Johnny's
walking
has
around
someone
on
dressed
Saturday
up as a
night.
hot dog, and it's the most awesome thing ever. And but is that a sign?
Yeah,
it says
tax
people
time,
or
somebody
human
always does
signs.
the liberty taxes, always dresses up, yeah.
Well, that's a people or human sign, isn't it?
The turtle was
I mean,
down
that's-
here on Saturday night, walking around on Main
Somebody
Street.
walking up like a hot dog, not
I
a
mean, Carter
7-Eleven.
Q's Riblet was walking around. Riblet.
He was passing out food.
But isn't that what it says?
It's
People are human
advertising.
signs, so if
But is it a
somebody's dressed
sign?
up as Statue
Yeah.
of Liberty, that's a human sign, right?
But again, they're temporary, isn't that what you're suggesting?
Yes,
Yeah,
they're
they're
temporary,
Well, they're not
that's
gonna
right.
be
They're
out
a
there
one-night
forever.
event.
Oh.
Hopefully not.
I don't see any problem with like the green turtle guy walking
No,
around.
he was,
That was something,
he
I
came in
mean,
here, we gave him water, he was about to die from the heat in that turtle suit.
there's things, I mean,
In
there's,
the Mount Airy winter, the sign guy is gonna be temporary. He's not gonna be standing out there twirling a sign.
the ones I'm thinking about more or less are the ones that dance or have the sign moving.
Right,
Right.
that's what I think.
Yeah, the
Spinner.
spinners, sign spinners,
Yeah.
yes.
I haven't seen one in town, but.
And that's a major distraction.
It is a major distraction.
I
I
think the
see
hot
it.
dog just went around saying hi to people.
Yeah.
That's not a sign.
Okay,
I
see,
don't
that's
agree.
what,
I don't
all
think a
right.
hot dog- that's a-
So-
I mean, that's a mascot.
A mascot, but in here, so if they dress up,
Right.
you
no,
can have your
sure.
hot dog, you can have your,
Cause I
your
could stand
turtle.
out, I could stand outside and
That's-
dress
Freedom of expression.
as anything I want.
Right. Okay.
I mean, that is a good point, though. If the green turtle is standing on the corner, jumping around,
Just like-
and it says green turtle on his back, I mean, is that different than twirling a sign?
No.
It's really not. But I don't wanna see the green turtle or the riblet go away, cause I think that was kind of fun. So, but I don't know, I mean,
Or the crying Johnny
he
hot
was
dog.
Carter Q's
Carter Q.
as a little pig.
Tony.
Well, the guy, the Ninja Turtle that was here on Saturday night, I mean, that's totally different. That's a thing that you hire. I mean, you actually
Yeah.
hire them to do that and they come. Just like the oil bird mascot thing.
If we get a Chick-fil-A one of these days.
We'll have we'll have a cow.
Sideboard. I don't think, yeah, I don't know what the difference is, but I think there is one.
So when does advertising turn from fixed advertising to
Moving.
a safety issue? That's
Well,
a fine line.
It's,
Well-
and it's movement. The answer is movement.
And so they offer some suggestions, where, they can prohibit the person from obstructing sidewalks or standing in the right of way. But you're probably talking more visual distraction. Now, State Highway is gonna take care of anything along Maryland 27.
Right.
Rarely do they.
Okay, well, they should. All right.
They
If
do
you
with
put
yard
some,
signs.
if you stood out there, they would come tell you to move.
They're not to be
Now,
found anywhere on
requiring,
fireworks
this
night.
is interesting, requiring that the signage be related to a business or activity that is on the same premises as where the person is located. So
It
that's,
can't be off premises.
Yeah.
That's okay?
That makes sense.
well, that's a
If
thought.
it's on premise.
But I would want, I think having them stand there, but I think to have a public event, the fair, the carnival or anything else, if a hot dog wants to walk around screaming Jimmy.
Well, yeah, well, we're not gonna,
Well,
we wouldn't
that's
regulate at
different.
a
What?
festival.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is someone
Someone-
standing outside,
So they have
of a
to stand on their
business.
lot. Okay.
What if they're in the shopping center and they're at the entrance to the shopping center? They're on their premise.
Well, at Walmart, when I was driving through there today, the mattress firm had somebody up there holding up a mattress
Oh.
outside, waving people in, so.
Huh.
There's some group that's opposed to CarMax. And every time you pull into CarMax, now you got, there's a line of people across their driveway. And they're, roll your window down, right, I wanna talk to you. You know what these people do with these, you know where these cars came from?
Well, that's,
Really
Houston.
Wow.
different, whatever
Wow,
else
really?
Ford comes up with, I'll support, they don't bother me.
Does a human being cause that much
you know, when you see these guys that spin these signs and they do it real
Oh, the
well.
spinning, yeah.
Okay, you sit there and the light turns green and,
watching 'em.
and you look, everybody's looking at this guy. Nobody's watching the traffic.
So does that cross the line from advertising
I
to
think so.
distraction?
I don't.
Some of those, I've seen some of those Liberty tax guys do a pretty good jig.
Right.
And
And if it causes a distraction, then could you ban the human sign as a whole?
Maybe that's the answer, because there probably isn't anything more distracting than a person standing there doing something.
And not in a
Whether they're
negative
dressed or
connotation,
spinning a
it's just
sign.
as a distraction.
Now, here comes the next question. What about the girls' soccer team that's washing cars up at Hardee's? And they're standing out there with signs that say free car wash?
I think
But that's not business.
Because
right?
you,
Well, that gets into handwritten signs.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, you're generally talking about the same thing.
But aren't they a distraction as well?
Possibly.
Yeah, so I mean, we're looking about safety, I think. Not that I'm against the soccer team's
Right.
car wash raising funds, but I think you have to look at it from a safety.
so where's the comfort level of saying back to the council? Because the council, or I'm sorry, the commission already recommended that, people or human signs be prohibited.
The
So,
council recommended
Oh, so
that?
they're not even
the,
allowed to
the
do that.
commission.
So how's this weekend fit into
We,
that?
we do.
So-
What do you mean?
So with the
Events,
with
I would
Riblet
say,
Because that's a festival, it's Celebrate Mount Airy, they're not walking, I mean, they're walking
and
up
it's a
and,
closed.
and it's closed, it's
Yeah.
not out in the, I mean, that's not
Okay.
what we're talking
'Cause,
about.
I mean, I had no problem with it this
Yeah,
weekend.
no,
but
this is the everyday, standing at the,
And-
at the corner,
Yeah.
trying to
They
get
were functioning
business.
as mascots as opposed to.
I'm fine, yeah, I was fine with what was happening this weekend.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure that they can do that.
Yeah, events, I would say that,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're
they're,
closed.
that's more of, like you said, a
Yeah.
mascot appearance. So, show of hands, who's comfortable with keeping the position that
Yeah.
human signs
I think we
are
I think we want to
prohibited?
stay there.
We're doing it once again where we're starting to box everybody in that puts up a sign or buys a business here in Mount Airy. We're starting to box them in and say, you can't have your own mascot on your parking lot because it causes a distraction.
If
Well,
they're stand,
I don't,
if
I
they're
don't
sta-
agree with you. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I don't go to that extreme. I think we would want to do some limitations about spinning things but
And if they're standing like right outside the door of their business, I don't have a problem with it.
Well, the scenario I see is if we open up Center Street and get something on there that, Chick-fil-A, the cow comes out, the cow sits there at that intersection in front of Target and waits all
waves.
day.
Oh, we're getting a Target and a Chick-fil-A, woo!
No, but I know
Trader Joe's.
Larry's sitting in Frederick just like I have.
I'm just jumping 20, 30 years ahead.
He's having dreams. You're having nightmares, Larry. You're having nightmares.
I'll be dead. But my
Yeah.
question is, I've never driven past that cow out there and thought, oh my gosh, somebody's gonna wreck here. I've never seen that as a big issue. So I've always weighed back at the.
And my wife said, close the window, it's hot out there.
You got the hands off the wheel waving?
So, I'm probably gonna go any way you guys recommend. I just don't see a big deal about the way we got it. And I guess the other question, we sat there on election day, I know.
I was getting ready to,
Well, that doesn't count.
that,
Out there all day.
well, what do you mean that doesn't count?
Well, it's distracting, but it's not the same as
It's
an
political.
advertisement, right?
It's political,
That
so it's
falls under-
different.
Well,
levels.
political distraction.
The election was distracting. No, I think.
They,
I'm gonna go whatever way. the
Well-
planning commission decides.
what do you
so
think,
part
Judy?
of this could end up being discussed with the handwritten signs, as you had said.
Yeah.
Right,
Well,
because-
it could.
Because if you have a
Um,
person dressed up, maybe they can just stand there, but
So
what's
if we
their
look
sign?
at the
What
the
sign are
actual
they gonna be holding?
photo, Can you scroll up, Tony?
You wanna go down?
Yeah, to the,
To the, there
okay,
he
so that's
is.
Pizza Hut.
Mhm.
And that could happen. Pizza Hut's on the corner of 27 and Main. They couldn't get too close to like the ravine that's there or whatever, but they could stand there, like
Well-
on the corner.
State highway would take him off of there. And
If they're in their right of way,
Yeah.
anywhere,
If they're within
100 feet,
within
yeah.
their right of way, they
Yeah.
could be further off if they deem him a
Gotcha.
disturbance of the state.
And Domino's did that one time. Remember when they had people out there because they were having a special on Friday nights? And they were out there.
I don't have a problem with almost any one of these types of signs, none of them. I think each one will hit a different market of how a business would wanna advertise. It's when you put it collectively, that it's a matter of, I feel like somebody sitting back and looking at the picture of the street and saying, what makes sense here? What's overwhelming? What's too much? And how you do, so it's not, in all honesty, I don't care about the tax guy out there, jumping around. I don't, but it's when you have the tax guy, you got the feather fly going, you got a banner going, you got it all going, and it's five businesses in a block area all doing their own thing
Sign
there.
competition.
And so that's where I get more about how do we set up standards
Reasonable standards.
that says, let's look at this as a big picture, not each individual piece of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I don't know how you get to that from a step back kind of thing and look at it.
But I think it's hard to visualize how to restrict the summation of the problem without peeling apart the individual pieces. Because, yeah, if Riblet and the Green Turtle and the hot dog were all on one corner up there by Dunkin' Donuts, that would be crazy.
Right.
But
Like so good crazy.
Sounds like a
Lay out bases and have them run the bases.
sounds like a joke coming.
It's a
The cow, the riblet,
that's
and the
not
hot
gonna
dog.
happen. That's not gonna happen, but what if it did? So, how do we?
Well, if these
Yes.
are temporary signs, so I hear what you're saying, so if these are temporary signs, when the permit, everyone comes in with the permit, I'm sorry, there's already we've already got the cow out there, and we can't
cannot
have a
have
hot
the
dog at
turtle.
the same time. So we can only have one cow at a time, and that's it.
Riblet's
So,
turn.
it's Riblet's turn
See,
now,
I've-
and
I've got this
so-
problem.
something like that.
I serve on 2 commissions, okay? And EDC
That's not
is,
a problem.
EDC is working to try to draw businesses in and, how friendly Mount Airy is and all this kind of stuff. And then we're turning around telling them, we can't have that sign, you can't have that person, you can't have that banner, no feathers. Okay, you haven't been here long enough.
We're
for
not
feathers.
saying that. We're not saying that. We're
You've
discussing.
You've forgotten everything that we've
We've said-
added since
yeah,
last
I mean,
discussion.
listen, what we've
Just like you
added.
said last time,
We've relaxed quite a
we've
bit.
actually, opened things up.
Yeah, and we're just saying,
And
from
Bob?
the business side, let's step back and look at the whole thing.
If they want input into this, they have to come to these workshops,
Well,
okay?
that's that.
That's that. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I think the only thing that's been banned is the wacky, crazy, inflatable arm
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we
that,
haven't
but other
said
than
no
that-
to any of this yet. We're
Well,
just having a
we've
discussion, other
res-
than,
Mhm.
yeah.
There's lots of restricting going on here.
Well, I think when it comes to the human and
Well-
people signs, so, correct me if I'm wrong, they will have to get a permit
Yes.
to be able to do that.
Yep.
So there's going
The
to be some
limitation will be there.
restrictions from the town administrator,
Okay.
because if there's 3 people that want to be
Yeah.
on the corner of 27th, they're gonna say,
That's too
sorry,
many.
we've already
Yeah.
given a permit.
Well,
that day."
and honestly, I think that, and they give some really great guidance, as to prohibiting the person, like, they're, in these bullet points. So I think the language that we should formulate should
I
really
mean, this
follow.
Yes.
is really good.
This,
I agree.
I really appreciated their guidance on this.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't want to stifle anybody's creativity.
Mm-mm. And
You know,
again,
I
don't
think
know
there
that
is
it's
like,
gonna be a problem.
I know,
Right.
because that's not creative.
Well, and I'm
You know,
just,
that
and I'm
sign
talking about
Right.
generally,
up there.
generally
Right.
But
restricted.
dressing up,
Right.
Mostly what we're talking
Well,
about
It's
is scale.
temp,
And Dr.
What's
Brian,
that?
It's scale.
It's
I mean,
scale.
that's
We
the
wouldn't-
concern, is scale.
and we could reach out
What do
to
you mean by
State Highway
scale?
and basically say,
The
and,
number of
and
people.
confirm this,
Oh.
but
you know, all at once, too many at once, or all together.
Right, but
human
that's,
signs would not be
Yeah, yeah,
allowed,
yeah.
you know, in any areas confronting Maryland 27.
But I mean, shouldn't you have the same sort of posture on any of the town roads? I mean, wouldn't you wanna follow
be consistent with what this,
consistent with state highway on your own roads in town? I mean, with regards,
Well, then they basically have to stand on their premise.
Well, that's actually what
Which
we had
is-
begun with. I mean,
Right.
which is different than festivals,
state
but,
highway won't let you be on your own premise
Within
under
a certain di- well, yeah.
circumstances, because your sign could be
Could be on their right of way.
So do we want to adopt the same language, find out what state highway?
we should check it out.
We should
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah.
I think it would be very restrictive to what.
Well, we can see what it is.
Yeah.
Let's see what it is, and
And I
then
think the ne-
and then
I
we'll
mean-
know, yeah.
Well, that
These-
would be useful to find that out, though.
Yeah.
If it turns
Yeah.
out we feel it's too restrictive,
We
then
can-
there's an example of where we're trying to be more lenient and supportive.
Yeah, I think what we would find acceptable would be considered unacceptable on those,
Yeah.
on those
Yeah, because
documents.
Main Street's state highway,
right.
Yeah, that's true.
Reasonable inclination.
Maryland 27, so it would just be East Ridgeville Boulevard.
Maybe within your permit request, you could just have a line in there that says within the state,
mm-hmm, guidelines.
State guidelines.
Mhm,
Yeah.
state highway guidelines.
mhm.
Well, I know from poor Mayor Pat dealing with this sign, wow, they're,
But I mean, you know.
Well, and you
there's
know
a
from-
lot of high-speed
What
traffic.
Yeah.
sign are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, this sign, okay.
This is going, it's, I think they start construction next week.
Where's it going?
I don't,
By
it,
the old,
It's-
Super Fresh, the health.
Uh-huh.
That's where it's going?
mhm.
Is it going in the medians?
No.
To the right, so it's kind of up on a hill, but, up on the berm.
Okay.
On the east side?
And the gas station's behind.
On the
it,
gas
so-
station
What's
side.
the gas station?
It's Carroll Fuel now.
It was
Capital
Liberty.
One.
That thing
Prior
keeps
to that, up
changing.
on the hill.
Yeah.
The Capital One berm, maybe.
So, my question is, has the town, has this commission denied any business, yet for wanting a people sign?
It,
to
those,
operate in front of
haven't-
their
they
business?
don't come
They haven't
before this
come here.
body.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, but the town, I don't believe,
the town hasn't denied.
I do not believe so, no.
And Bob, the other thing you have to remember is these are temporary signs that we're dealing with. We're not restricting their signage for their buildings.
Well,
I mean, these are temporary signs.
I can just remember cabinet signs. We all hated cabinet signs. And we weren't gonna have any more cabinet signs, and we wouldn't let Damascus Community Bank have a cabinet sign. But along came Mommy Cakes, and we gave her a cabinet sign. Like that.
Well,
Because it was the
and-
only reasonable sign you could put in
And-
there.
and
Well,
we
that's
just-
because that's a
we
hardship.
Wound up
You have-
changing our position for Damascus Community Bank, and then they sold.
And you have to understand that there are hardships
Our
and,
position.
Yes, we did.
yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
We changed our position on that
Yes,
one.
we did.
And there's always hardships, there's always things that, and that's, like Judy said, there's always, something that comes along. Because she always brings this stuff up, which is good.
Yeah.
There's always another scenario, so this is kind of like the mixed use ordinance, it's kind of flowing. But we have to start somewhere, we have to have some restrictions, or else we'll have sign pollution. And nobody wants that, not even a business wants that.
Right, exactly.
Because then they can't see what they have,
Yeah,
nobody can
Everything's
see.
just cluttered and nobody pays attention
Right.
to any of it.
What's a cabinet sign?
A box sign, it's a black box with a piece of plastic over the front that says Doc O'Brien.
So it looks like an X-ray view box.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
It's an older style.
yes. Good,
What's
yeah.
objectionable about it?
I don't know, because I don't have a problem.
It was before when there were, well, there were some commission members were not that fond of them.
And
I don't really know how it started. It was before I was on the
they
commission.
did
That
have
sign
internal
ordinance thing, and everyone wanted
lighting.
monument signs, the town was gonna look like a cemetery.
Yeah, there was some stuff that before most of us were on that,
Diane was,
yeah.
Yes. You know,
We don't
these
need
the human signs and the portable message center,
No
maybe not
names, no
necessarily
names.
projected image signs, but 2 and 3 kind of go together as far as what the state roads has, because the portable message center signs
And
generally
these
are
were,
placed close to a right-of-way.
Yeah, these were suggested, by the planning commission to be prohibited.
The portable message one?
Yeah. Trying to think.
And, you know, the town council, didn't have any strong objections to that. They wanted to make sure, that the definition was clarified.
my notes to that.
And that was the October work session recap.
What's that?
What they wanted to make sure, I believe, is that the vehicles, parked, so like, vehicles or trailers parked and visible from the public right-of-way wouldn't be considered, portable signs. Because the way that this definition was, it said that it was a portable sign and it wasn't allowed.
Right.
And that was the only part that the council didn't really, they weren't comfortable with that. They felt that, you know, if somebody positions their truck in a parking space, you know, and it's some advertising, it's not that big of a deal, so.
If it's just there while they're parked.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, way back when, you had to put any truck with any advertising, like, in the basement, you know, you couldn't have it out, so, so that was the only concern that the town council had to prohibiting the portable signs, if that helps the conversation any.
There are real estate companies that have landscape signs on their moving trucks,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
they just
that's-
park them.
Yeah.
And is
Here's
that allowed?
comment right there.
Well, it needs to be like on their property. I mean, the concern was, where this was coming from was you couldn't have those vehicles like that in the public view. Like, they had to be behind the building, they couldn't be visible from the road.
Like
That's
the
the way
Mount
it's
Airy
right now.
Mattress puts out their truck
Right.
in that cul-de-sac.
He's got one of the wraps on it.
So,
And
they,
those,
they can't just arbitrarily park
Anyway.
anywhere, but,
Plumbing truck? WRF.
is that
yeah,
on
but
his
that's across,
property?
but that's across from his building though.
We're not talking the one that's growing trees in it, Larry.
Oh, he's actually,
That was just about hidden in the forest now.
that's a parking lot
But that's
situation.
okay, because
But the approach
Considered a planner.
wouldn't have been. Like, so, the approach of this ordinance that the town council wasn't, you know, completely in support of, would have
Right.
made that not okay. So it was, like, you
Yep.
couldn't park, like, the Green Turtle Bus wouldn't be able to park along Main Street. Mount Airy Mattress wouldn't be able to park, you know, so that it's visible from 27.
they can park on their own property.
Yeah, but not to be, this got a little,
And-
Yeah, that seems kind of
And they were
silly.
also saying
Got a little-
if it's a commercial vehicle that the business owns and uses in the operation of their business.
Right,
that's-
right.
As opposed to just simply parking it there, obviously,
Right,
for
right,
extra signage.
Mhm.
Using it for their business, it's a sign.
So, and the other, you know, portable signs, I don't see a need for it. I mean, the businesses can advertise through temporary banners. Now they can advertise as, you know, with their feather banners. They can have sidewalk sandwich signs. I don't know that they need,
I like signs. I think
yeah, they're
Yeah, yeah.
tasteful. I don't know that we need to have like signs on wheels.
depending on what the current thing is.
Mhm.
Devil's advocate for that, which I heard going through Wildwood, was that sandwich boards end up taking over the sidewalk, and then they can't get
Well, we have regulations. They should maintain a 3-foot, path. And
Are we not, we're not gonna support portable message centers?
well, that's
then?
up to you. I mean, I
I
don't.
can't think of when I've even seen one.
I know,
What's
I-
an-
I'm-
What's an instance in
I
town?
can't even think of why.
There isn't one I can think
Right.
of.
I haven't seen them here.
I don't s-
Well, what do you call that over at the carnival grounds? Is that a portable message sign?
No,
That's a
no,
permanent
it's a
thing.
permanent message sign.
Oh yeah, you can't move that.
And
These are
But the
like on
message is
wheels and you
portable,
can
not
change the
sign.
letters.
That's
I'm
right.
trying to say, the
Kind of
message
are,
is
they're very
portable, not the sign.
archaic looking, they're
well, we
not,
spent
That's a
time
changeable
specifying
message
the rate of
copy.
change.
I
We
feel
slowed
like
it
the
down.
only time I've seen one of these anywhere nearby is like when, churches have temporary, like, they're in a school for a period of time or something like that, so on Sundays they would put some of these kind of signs out saying something about,
That's what I was thinking too, Judy, is that I saw one in front of the church.
Church,
I think,
that's where I
or
think
the
it-
new one.
yeah.
But I mean, I do see these all over the country as I'm traveling around. So, I mean, and they're,
Schools
again,
use
this is not one that I would fall on the sword for.
Yeah, I don't.
No, I don't feel that.
I don't
they're
think
fairly
that
expensive.
we,
too.
we offer enough
I
in
think there's
the
other
Yeah.
form
ways.
of
All right.
advertising.
Once again, I think we have to protect our downtown. But when you move into the outskirts, leave these items for discussion. You know, allow
I
Heather,
understand.
allow Heather and Monica to make decisions.
I don't
She doesn't
think
wanna make
that
the
staff wants to have the argument about portable signs.
right.
And I don't think the town's that big that downtown looks that much different than the rest of the other part that,
No.
to limit it.
They didn't fit.
No. I
Doesn't
Yeah,
fit
portable signs
downtown,
just
and
don't
I
fit.
don't even see it in our outlying commercial area,
No.
really.
No.
Yeah, that's, okay,
We don't need signs on wheels.
no.
So I'll make a note to, clarify that, painted, or like messages on trucks or, advertising on, like, not for the purposes of, well, because there are trucks now that are actually signs. That's different than a
That was my next
company.
question. You got
truck.
you've got
So-
wrapped
I've
vehicles.
seen them during campaigns.
Yeah,
Well,
they're,
I said,
it's
when
like
you
a
come
big
through
TV.
Laytonsville 2 or 3 times a year, you see a
Yeah.
sign.
So, right.
You come through Laytonsville 2 or 3 times a year, you see a sign that tells you that this coming Saturday at 9 o'clock, they're shutting the road down because it's a 5K run or a 20K run or whatever, and to be prepared and search for alternate routes. They expect the road to be closed for an hour.
Well, that's a little different.
That's a public safety.
That's, yes, that's a, yeah, that's
It's
not an
a
advertising.
portable, what do we call it here? It's a portable message.
Yeah, but it's not
Yeah, but
advertising a
anything-
business. It's advertising
Yeah.
something,
An
it's just
event.
like,
That's a public
it's,
service.
the signs that we put up for our street closure are signs. They're portable signs.
And there will be like a disclosure in the beginning that this sign ordinance does not apply to anything for public safety or even governmental measures. So, I don't think it's necessary for advertising.
I agree.
Because in the
Mhm.
instances that you're talking about, Bob, they're
Well, and
very
you're-
limited
you're-
and they're government
You are
controlled.
correct. Okay, I withdraw my objection to that.
Okay, let's move on before you withdraw your withdrawal. I'm getting out when the getting's good.
But
Projected
I'll wake up at
image
3
signs.
o'clock this morning and have a different idea, and I'm calling
Sorry.
all of you.
No takes backies.
I hope
Uh-uh.
that's not what we
Moving on.
Projected image signs. Haven't dealt with this, don't think it's necessary. I don't know, unless you're gonna do the Batman symbol, I don't know. I
mean,
don't
it's just-
see
it's
how
just on
it's
a scale
effective
issue.
for
You don't have
one.
it.
Our buildings aren't that
I-
big.
So
They aren't tall enough.
what if we were to project an image from Mackenzie onto the Bengu side of the building? What if we chose to do that in the future?
We
to-
have done
for
that now.
town-
It wasn't
town fund.
Mackenzie.
It was snowflakes.
It was snowflakes and stars.
That was the mayor's thing, yeah.
But we have projected an image onto that
Get that
banner,
machine.
or onto that.
Would we,
But is
would
that
there-
advertising or is that art?
But would there ever want to be a town, advertisement of town events in that fashion from, on that side? I just didn't want to box us out for,
Billboard, are you talking
well, on the
about?
side of, on
Or
the,
on the side of
Well,
it?
there's the billboard,
Vancouver Bill.
and then there's a billboard there.
That's part of
That's
it.
not part of his, and that's not even his. He doesn't own that billboard.
okay.
Rob Scranton.
I just didn't know. I
Bob
thought it
Scranton
was-
owns that.
I thought it was something that the town might, I
No.
don't want to box us out of wanting
Hold
to
that
do that.
thought.
All right,
I'm
but
gonna
if
go
we,
He own
there.
the building?
if we
When
go
get
back
finished.
to, we're not gonna
Shouldn't
go
that
back,
be regulated by sign size?
You know, they did, I mean, the only time that I've seen projected images is when they do that special, that light thing comes to Baltimore, and they put, project, it's more art than it is signage.
What, all the lights for the Ravens?
No, it's the,
There's an actual art show, an
it's
8-day
a-
art show.
yeah, what's the light, I forget what the name of it is, but, and they do projections, alongside the buildings, they do different things, and it's art, it's not, it doesn't advertise anything, it's actually art, so that's kind of coming in that art category.
Wouldn't that be subject to the same standards if you ordinary signs on length, width, and dimension?
I don't know, because they moved, they were moving across the building.
It's not saying, there's a lot of stuff that's not said. In Columbia, they drive through a light show,
Yep,
over the holidays.
Yeah.
Um,
let's do this Symphony Woods.
So you can't consider that a sign,
Symphony Woods.
that's an art exhibit.
okay,
That's not signs.
wait a minute.
I mean, that's not advertised.
Let's go back to the definition of a sign
Okay,
that we have in our town, in our code. A structure, device, material, and the reason is, would those,
Projection.
Right.
would that be a sign?
Well,
So,
Yeah, that's a tough one.
so a structure, device, material, or thing, illuminated or otherwise, which displays or includes any representation used as an announcement, advertisement, direction, or designation of any person, firm, group, organization, place, commodity, product, service, business, profession, enterprise, or industry, which is located upon any land or any building in, or upon a window or indoors in such a manner as to attract attention from outside the building. So, those projections of snowflakes are, isn't
No.
really a sign.
That's not really a sign, no.
Well, yeah, not,
The application.
Projected.
That application.
Huh?
The image itself is a sign. If you, at the beginning of your definition, they alluded to that.
Which displays, oh, don't make me read all
It
those,
displays.
but no,
It displays.
any
It's-
representation
yeah.
used as an announcement,
so what about the winter festival, like Mount Airy's Winter Festival?
So
Would
the
that
side of the
be
building
an
would
announcement?
be a
Okay.
display.
Snowflakes.
wait a minute, an
No words,
announcement,
snowflakes.
advertisement, direction, or designation. So it might be an announcement of any person, firm, group, organization, place, commodity, product, service, business, profession, enterprise, or industry. It doesn't say event.
It doesn't say event, that's interesting.
Right. What's the question? I must.
So if those projections, well, that's why we went back, because if it's not a sign,
Sign.
so
Yeah.
okay.
if we're concerned that the projected image signs would preclude,
The town from putting snowflakes on the wall.
Well, not
that-
even that, but I was thinking more of an announcing a town event.
okay, so that wouldn't be a sign. So,
It's a projected image.
but it,
Event was not included,
No,
which
event
is actually
wasn't
rather
included in
surprising
the
when you think about it, but.
so this is the definition that's codified as to, that,
It's already in the
as to the
code, how
definition.
sign is defined.
But couldn't someone use a projection and label their business or?
Yeah,
Sure.
she was just saying because event was not
Yeah.
included in the definition.
Then that would be a
Blowout
sign.
sale at.
Okay, so it would be a sign that was anything other than.
An event, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So we're
yeah.
saying that we
So
don't
got
think
two
we
things.
need this then.
That, we can outlaw that sign.
Scott's scenario is actually pretty realistic if you think about, sponsorship projection coming off of the caboose toward, Scranton's, billboard that has a list of all the sponsors and everything. I mean, that could be interpreted as a sign, only it's talking about.
Well, I'm even thinking about, so when they do the, on the Harrison LaShire property, when you start building that out over there, and, I could see businesses, you know, highlighting the whole wall of a side of the building, so you're going down 27, and you're just putting on, you know, whatever the business name is, with a light just shining on it.
This was happening in New York City. People were projecting on people's buildings, and they're like, "Get that off my building," and they're like, "Get what off my building? Yeah, get what off your building?"
Right.
They were
That's
like, "It's just light. I'm not putting anything on your building." And so you were getting a side of a building for your advertisement, and it was a big thing. And I think what it boiled down to was they didn't know what was wrong with it, but they knew it was wrong. Like, they, I mean, they couldn't define what was happening as far as what you were doing wrong, but they just knew that it was wrong.
I don't feel
So how
like
did they deal with that?
They banned it, but what the details of that prohibition was, I can't imagine
Right,
what the word
but they
is.
were using somebody else's wall
Someone else's
without
property, but
permission,
what were they
without
really
permission,
putting
yeah,
on it?
yeah, it's interesting, yeah.
See,
Yeah,
if
that's,
New
it is
York
interesting.
prohibited
Well, I suppose we
projected
can,
image signs.
Because it was an invasion of space.
yeah,
Photons.
yeah.
I wouldn't have an issue with that as long as we could still have our happy, you know,
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah,
holiday
I mean, it's a
festival or
nifty
whatever.
way to
Yeah.
glitz things up, I mean, but
yeah.
they just don't, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't box ourselves out to do something
Yeah.
fun
Well,
when it.
I like the idea to communicate or to promote a community event.
Right.
I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I don't see that would classify as
No,
a sign.
I think that's fine,
Devil's in the details with that one.
okay.
So, so we would keep that, or that, we would just
Eliminate.
prohibit.
Yeah,
Now, the sidewalk signs,
We do those.
I'm sorry.
We do those.
Yeah, we do those, and I think our existing language works. You know, some of the things that we experience are, you know, the shopping center, off of Ridgeside Court, where, Mama Angela is. We've had
Okay.
some issues that their sidewalk,
It's very narrow.
yeah.
and it's not really effective
Right.
because you can't, you know, so they
Can't see.
wanted to put their sidewalk sandwich signs like up along
Up
Main
along.
Street,
Oh.
and that didn't work out so well
It's not adjacent.
because it's not their property and it's not within 10 feet.
It's not
Right.
So we're
adjacent.
gonna have those scenarios,
Yeah.
but in
Yeah.
my my days here at the town, I haven't run into a lot of instances where our existing code doesn't work. So I don't think it's broken. We allow one, and that seems,
I think the only time I don't even know if it's so much the sandwich sign, but I think it's like some of the grocery stores, when you're talking about the Wildwood folks and stuff, being able to maneuver
Oh, there's so
around
much
all,
stuff out
like,
in front of the
outside of
store.
Wise,
Why is
you can't
that
get
not
around
Safeway?
it.
well, you've
So
got
that's-
furniture and
Oh my-
flowers
Right.
and
And I
pumpkins
don't really think that
and,
has
you
to be
know,
a sign, though, the
Massive
sandwich
displays.
sign.
Oh, I know, it's
Yeah, it's-
crazy.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's
Is
a
it part of our existing code, Heather, that, that kind of signage has to be within X number of feet?
S-
That's not,
The
that's not even
sign-
signage.
The sidewalk
Yeah.
sandwich signs,
Yeah.
10 feet.
Okay.
The business, I'm sorry, which is generally your,
Has to be within 10 feet of
Can't
the
be,
building.
yeah, which generally your sidewalk is anyway, but I
That's
guess it was
appropriate.
just,
Okay.
so. All right, so no changes to that. And then vehicle signs and wraps. This is, you know, sort of what we had already talked about along with the portable,
Right.
image. Not portable image, portable message.
What you said.
I think that, you know, if it's part of their, if it's their company vehicle, it's not an issue, but again, the vehicles that are constructed or for their main purpose is to just be a mobile messaging device, I don't know that we need to include that right now.
Well, there are some people that they're paid by the company to get their vehicle wrapped.
Yeah, and that's their right to do that.
I think we can police that.
So are you saying they can't do that?
No,
Okay, all right.
the vehicle signs and wraps, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I'm taking vehicle signs literally, like the trucks that function as a sign.
Oh, okay,
The,
okay.
the message, like that digital changing message where they park it.
Yes,
And it looks
okay.
like a big LED, you know,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Okay.
But those are just my thoughts. And then,
Here we go.
This is
Here
this
we
one,
go.
yeah.
yeah, window signs, and
Yeah.
we have had a
None.
lot of conversations.
None.
Well, what's
I know.
proposed in the 2016 sign ordinance is that up to 25% of a window can be covered. Now, we might wanna talk about handwritten signs at the same time, so be thinking of handwritten signs in conjunction with window signs as well. And if that matters. We've had a lot of discussion over the past years because too many window signs, you know, can lead to visual clutter. And, you know, some people think it makes things look, unappealing.
But
yeah.
are McDonald's and Arby's wrapped in these signs? I mean, I mean, if you go into McDonald's, you're looking through signs like right? I mean, and Arby's, like all the windows are covered with pictures of hamburgers and stuff.
And
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts, they have
Right.
like this film,
Yeah, you can't, there's
you
no,
know,
And
Like
Mount Airy
windows.
Liquors, total,
yeah.
total.
but
But it's not, now,
Why
there,
do these not bother me?
is it
because
the
they're nice
because
advertising?
they look cool.
It's part of,
Right.
it's like part of their,
There's no neon colors, there's
Right.
no look.
And
at
it-
There's no blinking.
It's done very well.
it's part of their architecture, if you
Right.
will.
It's their message.
Right.
It's not a black and white, you know,
It's uniform, it's not.
sort of.
Yeah, it's just very subdued.
So what is, I think we were in a position of opposing some of these, right? I mean, I brought it up because I'm not sure we should, but why was that written, Bill? Was somebody giving him a hard time about that?
Well, no, I mean, they're,
I was referring to
The
to the
measure-
Mount Airy Liquors,
No,
Yeah.
yeah, but Mount Airy Liquor.
He was concerned
because
that
he doesn't meet the
it
go ahead.
wouldn't be,
Percentage.
allowed.
yeah, he was concerned that they wouldn't be allowed, or that, you know, it would be at the 25%. And this is the Mount Airy liquor store owner. He submitted a letter for consideration
Well,
at the last work
It's a
session.
much higher percentage, but it's not opaque.
It's 100%. He's covered 100%.
Yeah, and
Well,
that's-
now,
that's the issue.
he has two different forms of window coverings. Correct me if I'm wrong, Roxanne. He has the more like uniform type of those bus signs or biz signs. And then he has like in the upper windows, like the advertising, right?
So that's.
Specials or whatever.
Yeah. So I don't know that,
Yeah.
They're
See,
also,
he's got,
they're also windows that they can see out from the inside. It makes it very difficult for you to see in from the outside.
It's for security
And they like that. Their cash registers are right up there. If when the windows are clear, people can scope them out from outside, see when everybody walks away and leaves 2 people up at the register, bang, that's
I
when you
mean, I
hit.
took a picture of it.
Which one's that, Mount Airy?
This is
Liquor?
Mount Airy.
Yes, Mount Airy
I
Liquor.
don't think that looks that bad.
No, they don't look bad because they're all
No.
pictures of.
Now, and I,
They fill
That's
the
why you
whole
stop.
window, So like it's one
It doesn't
picture for the
look
whole
bad.
window.
Mallory,
it's kind of a
it
montage
absolutely
thing, yeah.
is.
I
Yeah.
mean, they change it too, so you never know what's up there. It's flying dog,
Are you
it's
writing
this, it's that.
anything?
Yeah.
But if you go to other places,
Well, that's my leg.
Well, if you're in the back of America, you got a real good shot at something
Can
that's
just look
Just
like they go
gone
out.
the other way. It's
Now-
tasteless.
There's Castle Liquors.
Correct, it's tasteless.
Okay, Castle Liquors has a little poster in every,
which one is Castle?
it's like this.
That's next.
I'm
Castle
demonstrating.
Liquors is Up
No,
this,
I'm sorry.
no. Castle Liquors is in the
Food line.
Food Line Shopping Center.
Right, council.
Now, they also have
They just have
signage
both.
outside.
Tony,
that's-
stop
you
typing.
can see is definitely, they take it in at night.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's just.
Tony,
little
leave the
poster.
road. This is Castle
Castle
Liquors.
Liquors actually called,
All right.
you're just nobody right now, all right?
Uh-oh.
And
Uh-oh.
complained
This is
about
Mount Airy
the
Liquors.
new Carroll Liquors on
What did
East
we say?
Ridgeville Boulevard because of what their signage looked like. Like, they were saying that
Yes.
their signage looked bad. And Castle Liquors is not a stranger to the signage.
No. Well, and what happens is the companies, whoever the company is, the
Yeah.
liquor, whatever, they make those signs for them and they're free.
Well,
So-
right.
And so,
Yeah, 'cause it's advertising
but,
their
and
product.
so with the Carroll Liquors, if he just had the windows signs, cause he's got a sign, I mean, he's got the window signs. If he just had those, I wouldn't have a problem.
Oh, he's taken down a lot of the signs. I guess somebody must have talked to him.
He's
Yeah.
taken some down and put
There
some
was a
up, but.
conversation.
I wouldn't have a problem because they have window signs. And the window signs that the liquor store has are kind of like this, the Carroll Liquors. But then they have the ones in between, so there's no differentiation. And they've got the banner sign on the front. It looks like it's on the brick, but that's actually a sign that they've put over top of the brick. I
And
noticed
then
that
they've got the
today.
big sign on the side
And
of
they've
the
got the
building.
sign of the
Yeah.
building. And they also have on their monument sign. They don't have anything, it just says liquor. So why don't they put Carroll Liquors there?
Well, I think that probably the difference too is that these other liquor stores are kind of in a strip mall.
Right.
Anita's is there. Anita's does not, it has the big windows covered, but it doesn't seem to be as offensive as that one store. And so how do you put that into a regulation of some sort? Because it's that,
Right.
it's the blinking, it's the every other, it's on the outside on the brick, it's in the window, it's
They're all doing
everywhere.
it differently. How do you come up with something that's?
And then my other thing
consistent
is-
in what?
Then my other thing is too, is, we have this thing about neon. J&P Liquors has a neon sign in every single window.
And that,
And it's
And
it's
we-
very tasteful.
we talked about that, like, I think in 2013, that it was part of that, their motif, if you will.
Yes.
Because where we started was that no one could have anything neon ever in the town limits, ever. Like, you couldn't wear neon clothes, you couldn't, that's some of the direction that, but we all changed that. But the window signage is a hard one. Bill has an answer. Don't you,
Mike was
Bill?
gonna make a comment, actually. Go ahead.
You're talking about a liquor store, not Cartier. Think about it. I mean, that's what liquor stores look like. The hole in the wall that, on Georgia Avenue and Military Road. I mean, that's a liquor store.
Belby's in Rockville.
But they don't
Maryville Market had a
all
dirt
have to
floor
look like that. You don't see a liquor store looking like that in Columbia.
Wow, we're not, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you think we need a drive-through?
No drive-throughs.
Through.
You almost can't find where you want to blow it from because there's no
Well, but I
sign.
think, if you don't mind, the stores in
Go ahead,
the
Larry.
strip centers
Oh,
in Columbia and the mall have have to abide by some
The
very
strict
strict
covenants.
advertising standards relative to whatever they do on that property.
It was a planned community from the get-go. Russ?
They're prohibited from doing quite a bit.
Sense here is that, I mean, I don't think we need to regulate this at all. I think the answer is actually pretty easy, because if you're selling shoes, then you're gonna have about a 50% coverage probably, but if you're an antique store, you're gonna want the windows to show the products on the inside. If you're a liquor store, they're gonna do as a liquor store will. I just don't, I think it's kind of self-policing. I don't think we need to regulate what somebody puts in their window.
Well, the police force retired when they saw this liquor store coming, because it's a mess.
But think
Yeah, I
other
mean, the
thing
one
is-
on East Ridgeville is violating all kinds of other aspects of the sign ordinance.
The market will dictate whether they survive or not.
It already has, the second owner, only been there a year.
Maybe it won't be a liquor store, or with signs in the window.
No,
Well, and they're fake
Italian
windows,
restaurant.
which is
So,
chucklesome.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing when it comes to Mount Airy Liquors is the idea that they have direct sunlight coming in there as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And you can talk about energy, minimization as well, because that is blocking a lot of the direct sunlight coming in. So I don't know where that fits in, but I'm pretty sure that they like how much shade that those window
Yeah.
dressings.
Well,
but-
it protects their products for
protects the
certain.
The products,
Yeah.
product.
Downtown zone, though,
No.
I do think that we have, our adopted design guidelines do speak towards that the window covering shouldn't exceed 25% for our historic area, and I do,
I'm fine with that.
yeah.
But in
Um,
Although,
So, we don't,
I'm concerned about across the street, but, yeah.
it's not something that we regulate now, because we don't have a definitive regulation for window signs. So,
I think we,
I guess my question is, do you guys think there's a problem with the Mount Airy liquor?
With Mount Airy Liquors?
No, not with Mel, no, no.
isn't the mattress store has a lot of coverage too. They're probably not at 25%. Don't they have a lot of window block? with
they have like
big
their
sign-
big posters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they've got
there's
those
big
big coasters, but I think if you
Is
put them
it-
all together, I don't.
Is it the
I don't
coverage
think
or
it's
is
that
it
much
the
more.
amount?
It's a huge window area.
Mm.
Yeah, they do.
Heather,
What was Greg's driving school? Wasn't that
Oh.
above,
They
It was
use
above
really
25%.
tasteful
What-
shades.
They did the shades.
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
after
think-
they first
I don't
put
think
everything
there's a
up
problem.
without getting
It was
permission.
yellow and brown, or blue, and we wanted it flipped.
I don't
think there's a problem.
They didn't even come before us.
So, is it the coverage, or is it that, so Mount Airy Liquors is, I think,
Tastefully done.
yeah, and they're like 100% covered.
Yeah, but, and there's,
So
yeah.
is it the number of different signs? So would it be a different visual impact if they just had 8.5 pieces, 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper with something different covering?
Oh,
You mean like Castle Liquor Stores?
Okay, I wasn't gonna name drop, but,
Absolutely.
Yes.
so is that the
Yes, it's
difference?
Yeah, but it doesn't look that bad.
Let me-
Look at it.
let me
It
see.
doesn't look that
I
bad.
need to-
I mean,
it looks like a liquor store.
it looks like a liquor store.
Guys, it looks like a liquor store.
I mean,
Yes.
that's what liquor stores do.
Yeah.
I'm with Judy. I don't have a problem with
I
any of them
don't think I
except
was
that.
ever offended by what I've seen at Castle. I do say that I actually walk past Mount Airy Liquors and I actually like those signs. I think they're fun, they're different, they actually enhance the store's appearance. But honestly, if we're going to say that we have a problem with it, I'm not sure what our problem with it is.
And,
That's the thing. I like, you have to have you have to be able to define what's wrong with it, and I don't think we can figure that out. So,
It is a value judgment, and
That's-
so
yeah,
I
that's the
realize that,
I'm
and,
thinking
cause I
we ought to
don't
do
have
it.
a problem
Do a
with
road trip over there
that
and look
liquor
at it.
store at all. It's the one,
Let's
it's
go.
that one liquor store that has
Go to all the liquor
a
stores.
variety of lighted and different things, some hanging in windows, some hanging on the side of the building, some sitting, and it just looks like, that's, you know, one of the main entrances and ways into the town, and it just stands out and looks like a sore thumb.
So
It's
what
not
would you
done-
say about that, that
And I think you
that
had,
you wouldn't like about it? So if you had to put a restriction in on window signs, what would you say about that particular instance that you could document where,
do you know what it would be? It's that they have a lot of exterior lighting and signage for advertising alcohol attached to the building that's not attached to the windows. And so if it were just in the window, perhaps, that would be something that could be tolerable. It's not, it's the,
is it inside or?
it's
It's
on the
both,
outside.
inside and outside.
So like on the outside, they'll have a Bud Light, you know,
There's stuff everywhere.
lit up on the brick of the building. So I think that's more, if you're saying it, if there's just the signage in the windows, that's a different, because Anita's I don't have a problem with.
I mean, they're
And
in
that does
violation,
not
aren't
have
they?
that.
On East Ridgeville? Aren't they violating a few different,
They're
Well-
probably exceeding their.
yeah, well, that's what I mean,
their space
exceeding
quota
their
for each
signage.
Window signage and building sign.
And the,
It's not the window
So
it's the
signage, you're
outside?
right,
It's
it's
the
the
outside?
exterior.
It's just all this
It's
excess.
the exterior.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
excess.
plus they have 2 or 3 temporary banners in the yard.
Right.
Yeah, they have all kinds of
So
stuff.
they've got, I mean, they've got a lot of stuff going on. If they could get, yeah, if they would get like rid of the
They can
banners
keep their
there, I
window
don't think I'd have
signs.
that much of a
With the
problem.
window
They
covering,
got
I
rid
don't
of
think
all.
that's the issue.
Right,
It
no,
really
not for
isn't.
them,
It's the
it's
other stuff.
lots of stuff in the
So
yard.
the-
But J&P Pizza has a neon sign in every one of their
But
windows
it's in the
too.
window,
on the
it's
inside,
not
right?
on
But
the,
that's- yeah.
attached to the
Not
side
attached
of the
to
building.
the building.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the difference, is
Yeah.
that the exteriors.
And they're in
the-
a shopping center.
Yeah.
The exterior.
Subtle.
Well, in J&P's window sign, I mean, are you talking about the neon ones, Roxanne?
Yeah, I mean,
They're
nice. They're nice. They're very tasteful.
When
they're
there's
not.
not-
I think it's
There's not too
the
many.
different
There's one in
pieces
every
of
window.
paper.
There's one in every window.
Because no, I know it's a liquor store, but it ends up functioning as like a bulletin board. You know, the building.
other than liquor, or?
Well, no, it's like a liquor bulletin board.
Celebrate on it, it could be.
Right, you know, and that's what, you know, you drive by and you're like, oh my lord, that's busy, you know?
So if
So
we,
it's not the,
Artistic things, which is sort of individualistic. and then-
yeah, I think that's where the, you know, you could have 100% coverage of the windows, so I don't think it's the coverage, but it could be something like,
it's
oh,
the way
wow,
it's
that's
covered. It's the way it's
attractive.
covered.
And you can't control.
And you can have
someone too,
100,
it's not-
I know, but you could have 100% coverage of just like different colors, a piece of paper and handwritten and,
Keep saying that kind of stuff, Doc, I'm liking this.
you know? I think that's the
Keep saying that kind of
difference.
stuff, I'm liking this.
So
But
just go
I
with
think-
the 25% then.
Well, then we can't.
Oh, we
Down
can't.
area liquor.
Never
Yeah.
mind.
We can't.
I think,
Then you have to talk about opacity.
Can you
or something.
put-
I mean,
can-
it just gets-
Could it be like,
You get
Can we say that the lit signs have to be in a window, inside?
I think it does suppress the intensity being inside.
Inside?
I think that's why the J&P signs aren't too,
Right.
distracting, because they're on the inside.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there is
no.
some loss of transmission to your
Yeah,
eye.
I don't have, right, I don't have a problem
well,
with
they're
that.
not part of the actual architecture of the building.
I think I think that's the difference, is
But
that
it
they're on the
doesn't call
inside.
as much attention to
And
itself.
it doesn't deface the original.
It's not
Right.
scary.
Right,
Thank you.
so there you go,
Figuring out
okay,
what my
so there
issue
you go,
was,
so. Can we
But
say
the 20
something?
But the 25%, we have to revisit, because we have a lot of violations of 25%, and I don't think that violating that 25% is bad.
Bad thing.
Should we
Well,
remove that?
we've
As
said
long
it's,
as it's tastefully done.
That's
Okay,
the
got
You
guy
can't
Rick
say
doing
that.
it.
you can't say that.
You can't say that.
I understand you can't say
Yeah.
that, but that's
is-
what it is. If it's tastefully done, nobody even sees it.
So
And I
what would
think
you,
define your taste by the exterior structure and altering the structure itself rather than a window.
Right.
so what would happen if you took the 25% away? Who would go nuts and do something that you wouldn't wanna see? I don't think there's, you can't get more than
It's
100%.
not something we can regulate now
Well, I'm just saying,
anyway,
like,
so.
I can't think of an instance of what business would explode their window signage because the 25% went away.
People are doing what they wanna do right now.
Yeah, there's,
Don't write that.
But it's not bad, though. The people who are doing it
Because
are
then
not
people are like,
exploiting it,
oh, let's see, yeah.
right?
Right, so it's not something we can regulate.
Well, but you're
Really?
suggesting that, or are you, that the liquor store at Mount Airy Liquors is violating the
No,
25% rule?
No.
the 25% is not a rule. It's a one.
It's,
That's,
Oh.
those are proposed.
Yeah, there's nothing,
I think
there's
you
nothing
could
codified, right?
regulate your neon lights on the outside of the structure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of your objectionable stuff, your 8.5 by 11s, except for that window. I mean, that's the real detracting.
Things hanging off the building.
Places is you're contrasting advertising with the structure, whereas a window is pretty much benign.
Is there a difference between a window covering and a window sign?
Window cover.
Yes.
Like what's that
So,
McDonald's?
window
Is
coverings.
More of a
Where's
mural.
the- But we can't,
Yeah, you're gonna, I mean, those
that's
are
gonna be
signs
content
and covering.
neutral,
And not
yeah.
only that, every window's gonna be different.
Yeah.
So what
Every
if,
window
Where'd
on
it go?
your
Where'd it
store's
go?
a
Where'd
different-
it go? There it is.
is a possible approach, and just let me finish, Doc, I can feel you say, it's a liquor store, but is a possible approach
business.
that
Okay.
you control the number of window signs per architectural pane or architectural segment versus the percentage? Because if you say, all right, you can have two, they could have one huge one and cover it all,
Yeah.
or they could have two that covers it all.
Can't they be their own business model?
Well, they could.
Well, and
But if they have 8 separate sections, they can have 16 window signs. But you're not getting like the fragmented like.
These are temporary
be
signs
so-
that you're talking about
Mhm.
here, so this is
Yeah.
not,
Yeah, until the next special comes up.
Right.
I mean, that's slippery because you can't, I mean, you know, is 100 8.5 by 11 Bud Light signs one sign?
No, it's 100.
It's one,
no, it's a.
If you put a piece of scotch tape across the back wall of them, they're
Oh,
one sign.
oh my lord.
Well, and here, in the Mount Airy Liquors letter, he calls what they use, it's called bus film.
yeah, that's
Bus
Like this.
film.
Bus.
Biz,
I
bus.
don't know.
Yeah, it's just the picture.
BUS.
It's those pictures.
But it's one
stuff
sign,
right.
and it looks.
Maybe you could send that to all the other liquor stores.
Legislate
Just so you know, it's awesome. This sign.
Just like you can't fix it.
some people might like it ticky.
Yeah.
If we could, so again, there's gonna be a permit, so is Ben Galecki gonna have to, fill out a permit every 3 months
Every 3 months.
or
Yeah, I
whatever
think
it is?
3 times a year, a month at a time.
I think we had
Well, I
said
don't
that
know
they
that
could.
window sign. I mean, I don't know that window signs would
No.
be with a permit.
I don't-
Banners.
So are is window signs here as a temporary sign, or is it?
It is,
It's a temporary.
but we've never done.
Can we say that window signs are not temporary? Or considered permanent?
No, I mean, no, I don't think that we should say they're permanent, because then they definitely need a permit for that. But I think that you can, we can structure the ordinance that temporary signs requiring a permit are, and then you just don't regulate the
There's that
others.
long list that we read earlier.
So you wouldn't need a permit?
No.
Okay.
And it doesn't sound like we're leaning towards regulating maximum.
I don't
So
think
what,
so.
Coverage.
where does it fall with the signage that's attached to the building, even if it's temporary? So like the Bud Light sign that just gets attached to the exterior, does that, because we don't address it anywhere, it's just excluded?
It's just not.
Is that the Navy thing that we?
Yeah, that's
we
the
don't
Navy
Air
have
Force
that-
thing.
We're back to that.
That's
again.
you
The Air
didn't
Force
get
is out
approval
there.
for that.
Right, so it can be taken down.
Right.
By code enforcement.
Right.
Right. So that's what I meant when I was
That
talking about
right,
earlier. There's
Air
a few
Force is
things
down
that
there
are not,
because he's in the Navy up
that are
there.
not approved.
And,
Yeah.
before the Supreme Court case, we would have said you can't have that because it's not,
You mean,
It's not tastefully done.
Awesome.
No, you,
wait, you mean you can't have the Bud Light sign? Is that what you're saying?
right, it's not part of your business, you're not advertising, you're limited to
Yeah.
the signage that you're putting on your building.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that is a time, place, and manner restriction if you're limiting the amount of.
the amount.
Yeah, yeah. But you're
But-
saying you can, but
It's what's-
But I think what we've decided here is you can advertise
something there.
the different brands, but it has to be in the window.
in
It
the
can't be out hanging off the
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
There
brick.
There you go, there you go.
Right.
Yeah,
I think if you restrict it inside,
Yeah.
it solves a lot of the problems.
so it's not all hanging around,
Mhm.
you know.
So that we'd
There's-
have that castle look.
There's so much stuff.
Building
Can you
signs
pull up a picture of
Needs
the
to
East
be
Ridgeville?
promoting the business.
I didn't take a picture.
These are pictures. I thought you were
See,
looking
this
at
would
it.
tell you
See,
that
this
all,
is
all
Carroll.
the outside stuff, no.
Would have to go.
Would have
But
to
see,
go.
I think they just put them out when they're not there when they're not open.
Oh, so they just stick those.
I don't think.
So they're
they
like
have
sidewalk
liquors is that
signs in a
bad.
sense.
This is
Yeah.
their version of an A-frame.
Yeah,
Anita's-
okay, okay.
Anita's used,
That's exactly what they're doing.
Anita's used to be very busy. And when they changed hands, we asked them to please remove some of that signage. It's not as bad now. It used to be
Yep.
cray
it
cray.
did.
Right.
I see.
But isn't it most of it inside?
Quote her
They had a lot.
Is the size
Their windows are
that
definitely
people are allowed on their building
Stuff
Their
inside.
windows are totally covered.
different
Everything's
from what
blank.
you're talking
Mhm,
about in
yeah.
the window? So
Absolutely.
there's a fixed amount of
Yes.
square footage.
Yes.
Absolutely, and it's easy,
Yes.
and it's perfect, and it's beautiful, and it works.
So leave it
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right,
Oh,
so
wait,
window
windows? Oh, yes.
signage, we're just not gonna regulate. And the reason that we came up with the 25% is because there was concerns that of the visual clutter in the windows, and we wanted to reduce that. But it seems like a little bit of a different,
Out of all of these, it's only the East Ridgeville
Yeah.
that seems to be
Mhm.
okay.
creating a
Which is-
problem,
and-
excessive,
Which
yeah.
is different on how they did it.
What they're
too,
doing is totally
on the
different,
outside.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that's the.
Because they're already, they're violating
Yeah.
stuff that's already clearly,
I don't wanna
Right.
hurt anybody's
Clearly.
feelings.
They've cleaned it
some, but it's just,
It's still
it's,
pretty
I don't
close.
yeah,
I haven't
it's,
seen
it's
that.
better than it
I went
was.
by the other day, really and truly,
And
they
hurt
had
their
just like
feelings.
2 signs out front, that was it.
Well, and
I don't know, maybe
And
they
that,
have-
I know,
'Cause
but
I-
it takes up the whole yard. I mean, there's
Which can
nothing
be
left in the
interpreted that they're
yard.
doing a good
I
business.
thought it
They
said
had
that.
everything gone and they just had a
Well,
few
yeah,
things.
I know, I looked at it
It's
today,
even
they've
more
got
than
it
that.
back out. They
Ah.
put, they,
I
Okay.
must have saw it at a good
you
time.
must have seen
Yeah,
it right
yeah.
after somebody talked to them.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if it was in compliance, it would look.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so,
yeah.
It's a happy medium.
yeah.
Well,
It's
and the
quite
thing,
crazy.
if we don't,
If
if we're not regulating it, we're not changing anything. So we're not, it'll be
I
okay.
went in there one time, it was
Yeah.
probably
And I think this is, I mean, point learned and point taken, there's,
So
I don't care who does it, but there has to be a conversation with every, and I know you do this, Heather, but there needs to be more of a conversation when someone comes in with a business. I know that they're handed all this stuff, but we really need to sit down with them. Maybe,
That's what the whole purpose of this is.
I
But wait a minute,
understand that, but we,
Roxanne, are you saying for window signs?
for anything.
Because window signs we're not gonna be regulating,
I
so there
understand,
won't
no,
be a
I'm just saying the whole
conversation.
thing.
And
Okay.
that's what they're actually looking for the authority to do at the staff level, is make decisions on
Yeah.
signs that they
Well-
don't.
Where we've gotten in
They've
trouble.
Yes, Bob, I understand that,
was
but they still need to have a
ambiguous.
conversation, just like when you go to your first grade or second grade, when you sit down and you have a conference, your parent has a conference with the teacher. You have to explain to them, you just can't hand them the ordinance and say, here.
What-
Somebody needs to do some explanation,
Well,
and I
We
think some,
do.
okay.
We are the first line of
Just the
defense,
rule-
and we
the
have
rule now says
businesses
it
coming
comes
to
in.
us. The problem has become where the code is ambiguous.
Okay,
And people think that the code means one thing, and there's absolutely no teeth in this code. That's why we're doing this exercise, to update this, to formulate language that it is clear. So it is not that we're like, well, you know, the planning commission doesn't want this, but this, you know, the existing ordinance doesn't say that. That's where
right,
staff
right,
cannot have a conversation because there's not anything to discuss.
yeah, no, I know, I understand that.
All
but
right, so window signs, we're not going to.
we're not gonna do any
do
regulations
anything.
on that.
Window signs are not regulated.
Internal inside of the window. Yes, correct.
Internal.
Okay.
But not external?
That's really, that's the best.
Just,
approach.
they're only allowed, window signs are
Makes
only
sense.
allowed to be placed on the interior of the windows. Okay. So handwritten signs. This, well, this was also a point of contention, and it was, sometimes it came up in discussion of window signs. So somebody would be running a 50% off sock sale, and they would just be like, oh, Sharpie this. Come at me.
Well, they're not gonna permit that. This is gonna be very similar to a window sign.
Right.
And we're
Well,
not
the que-
talking about putting them outside, they're just stuck to the windows.
Well,
The question is whether
Well,
they.
and I remember Miss Patty was concerned about handwritten signs applying to sandwich signs, and that wouldn't. So it
Right.
would be like your Sharpie on a piece of paper.
Stuck to a window, stuck to a door,
Not-
or something like that.
Not a like,
Back in
not,
1 hour.
not a chalk
That's-
marker on the inside of a
no,
window or
that's-
something?
That's not
Like,
what this is.
No, it would just be like, yard sale.
It's not gonna
On a
be
piece of
like the
paper.
artistic, like where Miracles used to be. They've now done a sign that they pretty much hand drew.
Mhm,
We'd have to be really clear, but then how do you differentiate between,
mhm.
Tastefully done.
no, so.
Some are more
Did it
temporary
Did it take
than
you
others.
more than an hour?
so,
If you're not gonna regulate window signs, how can you say you can only have some signs on the inside of the window and not on the outside of the window?
Well, you just,
Isn't that regulated?
well, you just put in there all, like,
We're not regulating internal.
window
windows.
signs shall be permitted on the insides of the windows, or all windows. So it's just placement.
No.
Right, it's just on the,
interior only.
yeah.
Yeah.
It would be, we're not regulating the coverage. You're not regulating,
Your sign, I'll be
The
back in an hour,
percentage.
needs to be posted.
you're
on the inside
regulating
of
the
it.
manner in which you're putting
Probably,
them.
yeah.
So they need to be
I
inside,
knew there was one.
Are the mounted stickers on the inside or the outside?
inside.
They're all on the inside?
Yeah.
do we have a lot of handwritten interior signs?
Yeah, it's hit or miss. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
The ones I see the most of are the ones that say, the ones about the mattress
Oh,
and the,
Posted on the street.
and, real estate investor, call
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
Oh.
the one that has 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, 25,000, call me, those are the ones that I think of when
Yeah.
I think of handwritten sign.
yeah,
Ones on the side of the street.
Oh,
Yeah,
we-
there's a-
yeah.
Yeah, we weren't talking about window handwritten, right? We were just talking about handwritten,
In
like
general.
bandit
In
signs?
general.
Those
yeah.
are bandits, right? I
in
mean,
general. I mean, people,
But inside signs.
let me tell you where this started.
Okay.
Maybe that'll give a frame of reference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tony,
Tell me you're off the record.
I'll
Pin
handwrite
poised.
that.
so there was a business on East Ridgeville Boulevard that started like a cash for gold.
Yeah.
And they started to handwrite
Yes.
their specials and write, we buy gold. And and it was a consignment shop, and they would put those specials in the windows, and it started this whole, we don't want handwritten
on a piece
signs.
of paper.
On pieces of paper. They would, there were colored pieces of paper, and it was a very nice handwritten type of, but it started to proliferate the windows. So we had the concern that when I say we, that doesn't necessarily reflect. But,
It doesn't reflect you, but it does we.
It came to you, so you had to address it.
right, which there was no way to address it, except in the ordinances that we're proposing now. That's where it came from. A business was just,
Freewheeling.
they were,
How long did they last?
Right.
they moved. They lasted in that location, but they moved down the street.
Yeah.
And they're probably still putting up handwritten signs, I don't know.
So, again, you're basically
It's-
talking about a second
That's a different work session, Doc. Yeah. That's a different work session.
The only,
That may
the
have
only
to
thing
go
I was
before
thinking with
DEC.
handwritten signs was, you know, colorful, like graffiti, kind of like 50% off or something like that. Like, I'm just wondering.
Like art, like the murals.
Yeah, like artsy kind of big chalk marker kind of looking things that you would see inside of a window, the inside of a window.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing I can think of that would even catch anybody's attention that could be, you know, handwritten. But then again, I wouldn't want to prohibit that because some of that is nice looking.
Yeah.
So I think prohibiting or policing the inside of the windows is maybe a fool's game because I don't think we can do it well.
Well, and then when we had this discussion back in 2016, some of the fonts, like printed fonts, look like handwriting.
Yes, they do.
And we don't want to get into, well, did they write that or did they print that out? Like,
We've
what's the
seen more and
difference?
more
If
of
you
that.
print out handwriting,
Yeah.
you know,
It's on an 8
I have,
by 11 sheet of paper. with
So-
the-
Living with an artist, I have seen,
yeah.
we had an Arts Alliance down here in town not too long ago, and all of their signs were done by artists. And they had a sandwich board that had chalkboard on it, and they fought for the right to draw the picture on the chalkboard today, and they were outstanding.
I think the thing that's got everybody down is 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper in the window. Whether
So-
it's handwritten or it's a beer
Yeah.
sign or something, I think that's what it is that it's like little pieces of paper I think that's what actually is
Well,
kind of the rub.
I think the other part is, you know, we spend so much time, this commission spends so much time where businesses come to us and they present their signs, and we discuss their signs, and we send them away, and they
Used to
come
be the
back.
first hour and a half of every meeting.
Yeah, there used to be a lot of them. And so you have some businesses working so hard to create these really nice signs, and then you're gonna have other businesses that
The guy
just get
next
to
door.
put up some
Right.
handwritten crap in the window
Right.
that.
And I don't
So
like
that's
that, for
not
sure.
really
So-
actually very fair to their neighbors. Beep. Oh, I don't think we're being taped, right?
No.
Okay.
But we do have Tony here, which is as good as a
We got
recorder.
live streaming back there, so,
Yeah.
you know, don't worry.
But is it fair to the businesses who are actually taking their signage seriously to have someone next door who's putting,
So
Stuff
do
in the
we,
I mean, I don't know, Matt.
do we,
I'm presenting it for discussion.
But if my sign, my handwritten sign, I put it up and it brings in my business, you know, then more power to
Right,
me.
well, I'm just saying, we have rules for the permanent signs. So these other signs can be detracting. I'm just saying it. Well, I know, but then why are we having any sign, why do we have any sign rules then?
so,
Space and amount.
What would we say about a handwritten
Yeah.
sign that is bad?
I
mean,
I
that's-
think it's like the
That's what
window
I'm trying to
sign.
understand.
Yeah.
How do we decide a handwritten sign is bad?
I know, it's more, because there can be
If it's not
the ones who are
painted,
just
Is
like
that-
jotting their signs down.
Right,
you
I
know?
mean, if I write it, you're not gonna like it, but I've
And
seen
that's-
people's handwriting, it looks amazing.
Oh, I
What if it's
know.
what
And
if it's
some
calligraphy?
are, and
Right.
some
I mean, I
aren't,
don't-
right. Oh,
And you can
I know.
actually
Well,
do
yeah,
that
but
to
then it's
font
great.
now.
Well, wait, be careful, because if you step into, you know, individual preference, you know, and who determines what, and then also the enforcement issue, if we're not careful, the problem with regulation is enforcement and continuity. And let's face it,
Continuity, that's what I was just talking about,
we have,
continuity.
we have a limited staff, we have limited ability in terms of enforcement. We also want to be as supportive of the business community as possible, you know, and be reasonable in that regard. And we're trying to streamline our regulations, so we've got to be careful what we say we have to strictly enforce and where we draw the lines and all of that. It's several things.
We didn't say anything about strictly enforced, but, go ahead, Larry.
I would also say you have to accommodate it's quite possible that a startup business may start by hand drawing something in the window
Yeah.
that they think looks nice, and
that may be
then
what
as
they
they
can
start generating revenue, they might be able to upgrade to a nicer sign.
I'll bet they could use a $5,000 loan from, or
Yeah.
$5,000 grant from the mom
And
and
I
pop
don't-
grant.
I don't think anyone is necessarily, I don't think that that's what they're concerned about. The royal we, I think it's like that, you know, the fly by night, whatever. But I still think that it was a legitimate question about this one over here has some beautiful sign, even if it was drawn with calligraphy, and then they're next door to someone who has, you know, so we're kind of.
Very capricious, though.
It's how they
no,
want to
probably not.
represent their business.
Yeah, and let's look at how this is gonna also,
It's just like the cabinet sign
Well,
versus
well,
a nice.
well, Heather, the signs that you said started this whole thing, what did they look like?
They were 8.5 by 11.
And how were they?
Just like Sharpie.
Yeah.
Like,
So was
I
it
would
some
say
of,
like an Arial font, handwriting style.
was it some
yeah.
of the neighbor businesses that were concerned with it, or? No, okay.
I think that for us to aid the staff, the window signs and the handwritten signs would become a real burden for them to be able to,
Agreed.
I just think that you need to just, I don't think we can really put anything down there that's gonna have an issue. And then if someone has a problem with it,
They can't
they have a
have
problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's handwriting, drawing, I mean, it's just too hard to get, I mean, what?
I don't want to put that
what
burden
if an
on the
artist-
staff.
It's like the wildflower weed type of situation
Right.
with code enforcement. We,
Dandelion
you
wine.
know, like, your yard can't be like over 6 inches, but people grow wildflowers. So the code enforcement officer will get calls that, well, this person's yard is 2 feet tall, and he goes out there to cite them, and they're like, we're growing bluebells. So he's like, I don't know what the difference between, you know, a wildflower
a
or
good-
a weed is.
So I have a
So-
question. So we can,
That's what we deal with here.
so we can just not have anything written down at all about handwritten
Yeah, it's not
signs.
prohibited. We're just,
So we just don't even, the word doesn't
it
even,
doesn't even exist.
doesn't even exist.
We're not gonna say it can be, we're not gonna say
Right.
it can't be.
So that means if one day somebody put hundreds of awful handwritten signs and their neighbor complained,
In their window,
could-
we're sorry,
you
there's
could-
nothing, maybe
or
you can
you
talk
could
to
have
them.
a chat with them and say,
Yeah,
it's
we're-
not, it doesn't say you can, right?
I think that business will seek its fate.
It might,
likely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
all right.
that's a practical way to go forward, is to try it.
Well, we don't want to hurt the ones that we like, and that's for sure. So, I mean,
Okay.
How does everybody feel about those little alarm signs out in front of everybody's house?
Even when they don't have an
I would say
Even when they
we're
don't have
not,
an alarm.
like,
It's
Or a
called
it would have to be in
deterrent.
conformity
they have a
with the
dog.
code, but we're not really
It's called
regulating.
deterrent.
there's no
could be
solicitation signs
handwritten.
at the
Beware
town
of vicious
pheasant?
dog.
All right, so,
So
you guys ready to go on?
penance.
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 What
So,
kind of penance?
All right, we gotta go.
last one.
Well, we're from Orioles territory, we
Alright.
never see any panics.
Penance.
We're good.
So,
Can we win the
the
pennant?
code currently prohibits penance. A lot of people like to use these, or a lot of businesses like to use these grand openings. They'll tie them from the light pole to the something, like light pole to light pole. They're currently prohibited, but I think as long as it, like if it's part of like a grand opening and it's a limited nature, I don't
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't have a
I think people do it anyway, but it's supposed to be prohibited. But
I think for a grand opening, they're.
yeah,
What-
I
what
don't think
about
it should
for-
be part of
We
it.
said maybe for special events, grand
Special
opening,
events.
special
Yeah,
events.
Right,
yeah.
right, special
It would fall
events.
like actually under, so we would want to revise our current language that states bannants, penance, and other devices. We would just, you know, have to massage that, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, temporary. Mhm. Yeah.
Temporary special
I
events.
guess I'm gonna ask a question, which one of these are permitted and which one of these are?
I'll have to based on our discussion, I'm gonna actually come up with like language to react to. And I think we're gonna have, a permit and our code's already structured like that. A
Yeah.
permit is not required
It's
for
enough.
the following, and
He
a
doesn't have
permit
a
is required for the following. So,
My only question on the pennant thing is, does a pennant allow, or any of this signage allow for you to go out there and drive 2 stakes in the ground and tie something between them? Sure.
Yeah, there's,
Pennant.
we
Yeah.
addressed that one.
We,
now
it's
a
a banner.
pennant
That's a banner.
is a
That's a banner.
Yeah, that's a banner. And banners can be ground mounted or building mounted.
Say that again, the definitions?
Like a banner is ground mounted or building mounted. Mm-hmm,
Okay?
yeah.
Okay, since we're,
The pennants are just like little,
Little flags,
Right, so
little
what
Little
is
triangles.
the
flags
pennant
on
a
a
pennant? The
string.
shape? Is it a flag? Is
No,
it square?
the things that come across, like
Yeah.
little flags, they can be little
a lot
flags.
of, hey,
We have a
Larry, a lot of the guys
definition.
that grew up had them across
Pennants.
the corner, the ceiling in their bedroom, the Yankees pennant.
Sports
and-
teams
Yeah.
Well, we're not gonna regulate people's bedrooms, that's
Right.
okay. So, a pennant is defined as any relatively long tapering flag of distinctive form and special significance that may contain wording or symbols.
That's it.
So it could be sale, it could be,
For sale, grand opening.
Turned upside down.
it's a lot of little baby feather banners on a string,
Yep.
like jalapeno on a stick.
It's on a
right.
string.
So those little triangles on a string.
Yeah.
Yeah. These guys.
Yeah,
They
right.
used to,
I was thinking of a single pennant, but
they
those.
used to do them
Right,
in car
right.
dealerships
Right.
all the
That-
time, but feather signs came
you
along,
know.
they replaced them.
The shopping centers
Right.
use them when they're having like a grand reopening, or they'll put them from
Right.
local.
We don't
Uh-huh.
have anything like that.
Not liquor stores, though.
I want to jump back real quick before we get out of here.
Bob has one quick
Okay.
thing. All
I
right,
got,
go, Bob.
I've got a quickie here, and this is something I've been touting at both the town council meeting and the last EDC meeting, and I want your opinions. Banner signs on the railing around the caboose.
I thought we already
We
said you
already-
can't have
we
them
already did-
downtown.
We've already addressed that.
Aha, unless we have permits or special events or something like that. Is that right, Heather?
Why
Town
you always gotta
events.
put me on this? And I've always said it's a town.
Yes.
It is a town structure. The town owns it. The town controls it.
Right.
It doesn't have to
And the
be.
zoning administrator tells me that the town must comply
Update banner
with the
for
law. So therefore, if you have no banners on railings, then you have no banners on railings.
But there,
Not
that's
just
not.
town banners on
That's
railings.
not current. That's not currently a law. But the town can determine what they want to do with their property.
Okay.
The town doesn't have to, and I'm prefacing this by saying that this is a mayoral and town council and town administrator.
No, it's not. This sign ordinance is starting
No,
here.
it has nothing to do
Nothing
with
to
the
do with
sign
sign
ordinance.
ordinance.
The caboose and the railing and the museum, they're town structures, just like the Flatiron Building. You do not have to allow anything that you do not want to allow in that building. You guys own it. You own that property, correct?
So the problem with that is that as administrations and politicians change. they
That
may
could
decide
change.
That's gonna change.
But for the
I have no
interim,
problem. I think that should be permanently disallowed
we are that is the,
without, unless they amend the ordinance.
in our next thing,
Town
once
code
we
could
get
change.
the temporary signs
Yep.
taken care of,
Part of
is
that.
our historic downtown district. And in that, and we're gonna focus on that, but it's not happening today or tonight, and it's not in place now. Until you get an actual code that says it's not allowed, the administration
all I'm
can
looking for-
absolutely
All I'm
cannot
looking
allow
for
it.
is opinion, a consensus, so that I can either take this further or shut my
Well,
mouth.
we decided here
Well,
at the
I-
But
last.
it's not the
I
planning
hate the sign.
commission.
Right,
Signs
right.
in front of
But
the guy.
just in terms of, I think, what Bob is talking about, we did decide that in the downtown zone, there wouldn't be banners
They,
on
they
railing.
did not support banners being on
Right,
railings in the
we
downtown
agree
zone.
with
Yeah, we don't support it.
We agree with you. Now, whether or not
I didn't
the
realize
mayor
I'd
dis-
mentioned that last time.
Yeah.
I thought it was just
No, you have a
EDC,
couple
EDC
last
and town
times.
council does, but
And
No, we
it's-
talked about
you-
that
but
in
you
a
guys
fair amount of detail.
have the authority not to allow that now. You don't have to wait for this ordinance.
okay, and
Okay.
like I say, all I'm looking for is consensus now. I don't have
we-
any
we all
idea where to
agreed with
go
you.
with this, but I'm not gonna pursue something that this body's not interested in, that EDC's not interested in.
But even, but
Or the
listen,
town
even
council's
if the
not
planning
interested in.
commission made a decision
I'm
and.
not asking the
no,
planning commission to make a
no,
decision.
No,
I'm
Bob,
asking for a consensus.
listen to me, please.
We're with you.
We're with
Bob,
you.
listen. Even if
By consensus.
there isn't, it's not regulated, okay?
Right?
And, you know, if there's an outpouring from the downtown zone businesses that they want to be able to put banners on railings and the legislation doesn't get passed, since the town owns that property, the administration can choose not to allow that. They have to comply with the regulation, but they don't have to allow something that's not prohibited just because they don't want to. They have control over those facilities.
And right now, we're all in consensus saying
As
that
Billy
we don't
Chapman
like
owns that railing in front of Billy Chapman's building, does he not?
Yeah,
Okay, so he has the right now today to put any banner he wants up that he can get a.
Yeah, until
Absolutely.
this is passed, until something's passed.
which doesn't preclude that.
And according to Monica, when I talked to her, the town must comply with the ordinances too.
Absolutely, but you don't you control
She's
it.
saying,
It's your
she's saying even
property.
before we have this ordinance, you can prevent,
It's his property.
you can
That's
prevent it
exactly
from
right.
being,
The town.
yeah.
Right,
The town owns the town's property.
so.
That's correct.
You don't have
But
to
they must
allow
comply
anything.
with all of the same laws that we have to comply
Right,
with.
Bob,
Correct.
what
But you-
Heather is saying is that even before we pass this, the town, the mayor and town council can
You
say,
can go ahead and
can
approve.
say no
No
banners
banners.
on the town-owned property. No banners on the caboose railing, no banners in front of town hall, any property that the town owns.
Right, and I
can do it next
understand.
meeting.
Right, until this is passed.
And Doc and I have talked until the next administration comes along and says, we don't like that.
Well, they can amend,
Well, no,
Okay,
because
let's
there'll
say-
be an ordinance that says
and
there's
they would have
no
to, they would have to amend
banners
it.
on railings.
And that's,
As
So,
long as it
Our
passes.
conversation from the
Right.
last planning commission was, it was the caboose and the
The
rail
train
station.
station.
The train station.
Protected. And I think you did mention in your sign ordinance, you did reference some downtown,
Right, and it's here.
So I would reference the caboose and the train station in that very ordinance.
You don't need,
No banners.
but
I
it's,
don't
it's
need it.
all of the
downtown zone, all of downtown
And
zone.
I understand, and I wouldn't do the whole downtown.
We are doing.
We are.
We are,
We
but we
decided
got
that.
there.
Doc,
So
we're
then
the
they're
planning
gonna
commission.
obey by the ordinance.
Right.
Right,
We agree.
but if,
Alright.
but if it's not restricted, my point is the town doesn't have to allow it now.
Right.
It's their property.
Right, Larry, yes.
Right.
Okay.
Didn't we determine that in a gym is not a sign?
Oh, my lord.
Okay?
All right,
See, that's,
We're-
and that's
No, no,
where,
no.
that's where it's come to now.
But it's a banner.
Thank you,
it's a
Larry.
banner.
It's a
It's a
ban.
ban.
It's a banner.
All right, I don't see where you have to go much further, Bob, because we've taken everything down except for the last banner that was under a permit, which expires next Saturday.
Correct.
With the Galatians event, okay? And then that one comes down, and there's nobody fighting to put any more banners up, so nothing's gonna happen on the caboose. But I don't think we need to over-regulate what happens in 10 years.
And I'm not trying to overregulate what happens in 10 years. In a few months, we're gonna have the beards, brats, and beers down here, okay?
No banner will go up.
Well, that's not really true. We don't have anything that says it won't go
Yeah,
up.
the town, we own
Be
the
quiet.
property.
We don't have anything that says, and we have a chairperson that is pushing hard to make that a place to hang banners.
Amethyst is an employee, and be a volunteer again, and we can tell Amethyst no. And we will. I mean, I don't intend on putting anything
Because you
up
guys
there
are in
for
charge,
here-
the council
here's
is
the
in
The
charge.
council and mayor are in charge.
You're-
Regardless
The
of whether
ordinance isn't gonna be
it's
passed by October anyway, Bob.
But you
You're
guys
40%.
say-
You're fine. It's gonna be the you have the power as the council.
Yeah.
You own, the town owns those properties.
10
You don't
years
have
from
to
now,
let
when
people-
Zach Peters is the mayor, he can put whatever he wants up there. I don't care.
But we'll have an ordinance in place at that point.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
They'd have to
Yeah,
amend, yeah,
right.
if
Yeah.
it passes, and then they'd have to amend it if they want to change.
No, we are. It's just a different section for the downtown area. I'm saying at this point in time, there's nothing regulating it, but the town can
Right.
regulate.
Let's put it this way.
Those
Something up there, I'll
structures.
tear it down, Bob.
There you go.
We still have friends in this town.
No, they're getting
Okay.
high-def cameras, you won't want to do
I'll
that.
take
All right.
it.
Personally,
I'll take it down for you.
banner off of
We haven't adjourned. Well, I mean, I have a question.
All right, Roxy.
I'm just,
All right,
So-
Roxanne has a question.
So if we have time at the next meeting, are we going to go over the real estate signs? Because we have not addressed that yet. We said that'd be separate.
It'll probably depend on what the agenda is. And Heather might not know that at this minute.
Oh,
Will we be able to impact that? I mean,
What?
real estate companies have like their own kind of.
no, real estate, you have to abide by the county and town rules when you put up your real estate signs.
That's good. I'm all for you.
Yes. The 24 that appeared between.
I don't think you have to decide that. I mean,
You
figure
have
that
to
out right
decide,
this-
it just
right
needs to
this- You
be,
don't have to do that right now. Heather.
yeah, we just need to know that we need to address that. Because those are considered temporary signs, but we decided we'd put them in a category all themselves.
Yeah, and because in the current ordinance, they are in a category all to themselves.
Okay.
So,
All right, so that's a
Um,
note that we need to address that at some point when we,
all right, well, I'm gonna start working on language, like ordinance
Uh-huh.
language.
Okay.
Based on the discussions.
okay.
And so you guys can react to and forward it.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Heather.
Thank you.
Okay?
All right, work session is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
right.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for participating.